breaking Grand Island wouldn't fire, right? I don't care about Grand Island.
Time for the crossover, powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha, everlevelconcrete.com. Hello, Matt and Josh.
How are we?
Tremendous.
How we doing, boys?
I am
wonderful.
Your coworker is now no longer 23.
Oh, you had a birthday.
I had a birthday. I am now 24 years
so that
old.
makes you 24.
I'm
All right.
24.
Well, you have to remind me next week. I won't remember.
I no longer get discounted travel with the United Airlines app, unfortunately. That's a downside. I used to get 18 to 23-year-olds on United. Used to get discounted travel. I used to get 10 to 15% off.
Everything's
of all
always
my
about
flights.
airlines with you.
I'd like to maximize my opportunity to make a
To go back
terrible-
to Chicago.
Yeah, it's like travel only to Chicago.
You're a commuter bird to Chicago.
Okay.
I'm going home for the weekend.
Where are you going? Chicago.
I'm
You've
leaving
had a midday show for what, 4 months? Not even 4 months. You've been to Chicago 4 times?
No, I've been to Chicago twice. February 28th and then April 5th.
The real question is, did you go to Chicago for the Big Ten?
And I did go back to Chicago for the Big Ten tournament.
Fascinating.
Three times.
So
I'm going back.
3 months, 3 times back to Chicago. When are you going back next?
I'm going out of town May 8th to
Chicago.
Wow.
Do you bring your laundry home?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
How? What?
I bring a bigger suitcase because I can pack a bag. I can check a bag for
Okay, that just
free.
seems like a hassle.
Yeah.
I check a bag for free. So sometimes
The only way
didn't
that
do
makes
it.
sense is if
this
you take it
last
and then
time.
you have clothes that are at your house now and you're just swapping in and out.
I
Your
used
winter
to do
stuff
that all
you're
the
taking
time.
back and your summer stuff you're bringing in.
Okay, now that's a play.
Yeah,
Summer
that
tires.
makes sense to me.
I-
But if you're just taking a laundry bag of dirties and bringing it back clean,
That
is very much college.
not this time or the Big Ten tournament.
And
but-
college, like freshman year of college.
But
not like-
the year I was really behind on laundry, and my mom's like, "Oh, just do some of your laundry." I'm like, "I gave a free checked bag," so I did do that. Granted, I hadn't done it since, you're right, freshman year of college. Now I did used to do that. There's a big old cubby beneath my bed, which is all my winter stuff, and I used to switch out my winter
that's
stuff and my
normal.
summer stuff.
Yeah.
But now I have a big enough area where I just have everything everywhere, and I like organize it within my own room.
Congrats on your big area.
Thank you.
That
But
sounds wonderful. I use 4 closets in my house because there's not enough space in any one of them.
Well, I only
man.
live in me. I only live with myself. You have a wife who's got a lot of clothes, probably.
My wife.
My
It
wife.
might be me. I might just have too many clothes.
I'm going back to Chicago on May 8th because one of the heads of the 4 families unfortunately passed away. So we're having a whole remembrance.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it which one?
It was Tia Rosita.
Oh my no.
Yeah.
Oh my. I listen. So I remember that I didn't download anything onto my stupid phone and then there was no Wi-Fi on this
Isn't that
plane.
so annoying?
It was the worst.
You go to like listen to something and you realize the podcast you were planning to listen to, you didn't download
Nothing
it.
worse.
You thought that it was going to download on its own.
And of
Nothing
course, the
worse.
Wi-Fi was broken. They were like, "We're gonna unplug it and replug it back in." I'm like, "This is a plane. It ain't gonna work." And
We're gonna blow on the Wi-Fi
so
card.
whatever. I just accepted my fate, and I had downloaded a long time ago the Godfather rewatchables,
Oh.
Did
and
you
so
just
I
listen
listened to the
rewatchables?
Godfather
That's
rewatchables.
hilarious.
It was great.
Awesome.
It was like a
Did you
refresh
finish it
of the
then?
movie.
I finished it.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished it.
When are you going to start 2?
I tried starting 2 yesterday on the plane.
And it
I was-
wouldn't work.
And they didn't have Godfather 2. I actually started Gladiator yesterday on the plane.
You never seen Gladiator?
Never
before?
seen Gladiator.
That's probably my favorite movie.
a lot of men your age love that movie. They speak very highly of that movie. I got just kind of like how I did The Godfather. I got half an hour through
Now, you
Gladiator.
know that this was made in like 2002.
I'm aware. I think it's 01. I thought it was 01. It's
in
around that
area.
time. But I've been meaning
Around
this is-
9/11.
This is definitely a movie that I've been meaning to get to. That I've been ashamed of the fact that I haven't seen it. So
I haven't either.
I think
Oh,
you would love it.
man.
I
I'm
think,
sort of ashamed of it.
I think
too.
I think you would love it. Like I love it.
No,
no.
considering just hosting a Gladiator night.
I'm
I don't
half
think that I would like.
I
Why do
don't
you
know.
think that I would like it?
because it's just,
I don't like fighting or action.
Yeah, I don't think you would.
but it's just a cool movie. It's just cool.
Neither of those specifically.
It's
Okay.
cool.
I feel like
a
it's
movie that
mostly that.
encompasses a lot.
It's
There's a
all
lot
of it
going
and
in there.
nothing at the same time.
Yeah,
What's
there's a
that?
lot
It's all of
pop-
those things and
Yeah.
none of those things at
Well,
the same
it's
time.
part political drama, part redemption arc. There's fighting.
the
and
pol-
there's
the political
action.
drama.
There's like a brief snippet of like a war movie in there at the very beginning that's actually really well done.
Okay.
The war scene to begin the movie. It's about 13, 14 minutes of the beginning of the movie is this war scene. It's insane.
People are dying.
Very good.
But it's more than just dying. It's like the ebb and flow of like the battle and like, you know, the
So it's
different
just a very
steps.
different version of war.
Yes, it's actually a very more detailed and more accurate description of what war
Alright.
looked like during the Roman Empire.
Yeah, because I'm not into war just for the fighting. I'm into war for the emotions.
Yeah. Oh, there's emotion.
Yeah.
There's emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
straight.
Is that a line?
No, that's not a line in the movie. No, that's not.
Josh is just frustrated at
I'm
something.
only-
You're hearing it more and more. Open the straight.
I'm only like 8 years removed from learning about the Roman Empire in high school, so it's just like I still some of these.
You learn about aqueducts?
Yeah, I did, and all that stuff, and like
Roman
oases,
engineering?
yeah, and like Caesar, and like how they came up, and like the rise of the Roman Empire. Like I'm only 8 years removed from that happening, so there's still some of these lessons from Coach Dan DeFranza that are lingering in my brain.
24 years removed is where I'm at.
Yeah, where it's like I still have.
I'm an
some of
entire
this.
Matt McMaster away from learning about Roman history.
Wow.
The fall of 2002.
Everything that's not 24 is
is
a
incredible.
McMaster.
That
to
is
me.
kind of crazy to think about. Yeah.
Guy shot 24% from three. Yeah, shot McMaster from three.
I don't think I'm going to replace
Damn
24
it.
with McMaster.
I would like that.
No, 24 years. That's a whole you.
That's a whole Matt.
Kobe Bryant wore McMaster on his back.
Yes.
No,
Sometimes
that I kinda like.
later in his career.
It weighed him down.
It did. Why do you think he had the worst kind of?
What was I doing a
Andrew's career.
McMaster ago?
Now that's
Let's,
the way to use it.
This is topics.
I always have to
This
think
is
how old I
topics.
am. So I was 9 a McMaster ago.
Yeah, you were playing baseball, little league baseball.
Probably. Yeah. 9.
There's
Dude,
that many years between us?
What? You're
Because I
how
would
old
have
are
been a
you?
freshman in high school,
How old
so
are
I've been
you?
14, so 5 years. Is
I
that
mean,
about
9
right?
and 14 aren't that different.
Or 15. 14,
9
15.
and 15 are very different.
Is
15.
9
I'm
14?
about to drive.
9 and 14 are very different. 9, you're still
It
like
seems different, but like it's
No.
really not in the
9
grand
But
scheme
like
of things.
38 and 33 doesn't seem particularly
9.
different to me.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but 9 and 14.
But it's the same
well,
difference.
No. 9 and 14 are very different because 9, you're still playing with your action figures and you're still like in your
I'm not
developmental
saying
years.
14-year-old
and
me
you're
probably
still-
wasn't.
And
playing
you're
with
still
action
and you're still
figures.
really invested in a lot of like trivial things or like things that will be in your life for a very
I
long
think you're
time.
aging 14-year-olds.
At 14, you're like, chasing girls at this point, and you're
Yeah, but
like think you're an
Really,
age
it's the
range.
same thing.
Thinking
14, the only difference between 9 and 14 is that 9, you don't think you're very cool, and 14, you think you're really cool. And that's the worst. I'd say that 9 is way better than 14.
I agree with that. 9 is a lot different than 14. 9, you're reading Sports
Pretty sure I
Illustrated
was just
magazine.
building my playbook in college
Yeah,
football.
and
2002.
14,
At both ages.
14, you're reading a different magazine.
Probably.
Okay, you're reading a very different magazine at 14 than
Time,
you are at
Newsweek.
9.
Yeah, they're both ESPN, the mag.
National Geographic.
I think in generalities, 14, not for you two psycho specifically.
When
I think general 14-year-old.
I don't think this applies to you, but when did you guys switch from Sports Illustrated for kids to Sports Illustrated?
Whenever the dentist changed, whenever I was going to the dentist, so
Connor Happer, everybody.
Perfect
Well,
answer.
I never would read magazines unless I was at the dentist.
I think it was like, first grade, maybe second. Because I only remember
That feels a
ever
little
having
young.
them-
Yeah.
I only ever
That is
remember
young.
having Sports Illustrated for kid at one house that I grew up in, but not the second house.
The
But I remember Thursdays, every Thursday, Sports Illustrated arrived, and it was like a big deal.
Think about that,
to
Matt.
go out there.
They would send us magazines every week.
In the
And I would
mail.
like be excited because the mailman would show up just after I had gotten home from school, and I would go out there and go get. And that's the only day of the week I was getting the mail, and I would go get the mail, and whatever the stuff that wasn't for me just got thrown on the counter.
Well, like Tuesdays,
And I
they'd
would
send you like
run
East
to-
Bay,
But
but
run to like the sitting room. We had a sitting room, very
Yeah.
fancy. It's just there was no television in it. Run there, flip to the back page, read Rick Riley first, and then go through the start of the.
That's
That's
what
how
we
you know
did.
it's a long time.
That's how we did it.
the last SI Kids edition that I got was when Steve Nash, Ron Artest, Dwight Howard, and Kobe Bryant were all on the same team. So whatever year that was, whenever they made
that was the Lakers, right?
all those,
That was
yeah.
I was a professional at that point.
whenever they
2011. I wasn't even.
was
in
it
college
2011.
anymore.
So that was the
Yeah.
last SI article I read.
No,
was
it was
when I was-
2012.
Let me look.
When was Kobe's last year?
2016.
Because that team got put
Not
together
of
right
life,
around the. They
of
got put together right
basketball.
around the
Yeah.
the
2016.
lockout, right?
Yes, that was around the lockout.
Because Kobe
It
and Bynum and all of those
was-
guys
wow.
lost to Dirk Nowitzki.
I agreed with you that I thought it was 11. It was actually 2012. 2012.
It was a lockout. It was
Oh.
after the 2011 season.
It was the 2012-2013 season.
it was a
was
lockout
Nash's
2012.
first year.
Nebraska.
So that was my last SI article when I was 10.
Bo said, "We're gonna win out," and they did,
Yeah.
until
And
the
then they got
conference championship
smoked.
game, and then they lost 70-31.
Yes.
Kind of a fun stretch of games there after they lost to Ohio State, and like
They were
all
all
of those
close.
games were
Yeah.
sort of bonkers in their own way. The
Yeah.
Northwestern game that like 10-year-old Matt probably went to. He
We
was probably
thought
one
it
of the
was-
6 Northwestern fans. in
We
the
thought it
stands
was
that
like the
day.
worst thing that had ever happened.
That sucked.
They lost 62-36 to Ohio State in this night game, and we were like, "Program is over.
Do you know who Carlos Hyde is?
This is done."
Do you
Yeah, I
that
know
name?
Carlos Hyde. I know Carlos Hyde for playing on the San Francisco
Urban
49ers.
Urban Meyer ran one play with Carlos Hyde, and Bo Pelini did not figure out what that play was in the
What was
entirety of the game.
what was the play?
It was like a step back off of a shotgun snap, so he allowed Nebraska's defense to crash.
Yeah,
They would over pursue, and then he would just run up the hole that they would over pursue.
yeah.
He probably
that's
ran
fun.
that about 11 times for about 200 yards that night.
This is like the Bo games that I've been told about that I've never gone back and watched, or that I've had to go
For-
back and look
for
at
someone
box
that-
scores and understand what happened.
For someone that
there's-
diagnosed passing attacks and just sort of destroyed them with his defenses, teams that largely figured out that you could just run the ball in the areas of space that Nebraska was vacating
Yeah,
really did quite
Okay.
well against Bo Pelini.
Okay, quick
Then it
straw
turns
poll.
out when he went to
That's-
every other
I'm
spot
just-
after, they did too.
I'm just laughing so hard because I just think it's really funny when you're like, yeah, people figured out just run the ball where Nebraska isn't, and you're gonna be okay.
it
What-
sounds
So-
simplistic.
It sounds very simple.
What was the biggest Bo disaster? Was it that game? Was it the Big Ten championship game? Was it Melvin Gordon game?
Melvin Gordon game was.
I mean, giving up 400 yards.
See,
to a
it's hard for
singular
me.
running
It's hard
back.
for me to like answer this.
And they were winning 17-3.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's so many of these where it's like the other team does something different, and Nebraska continues to do the same mistake over and over. and
It's
over.
probably the Melvin Gordon.
So you have the UCLA game where you're up 17-0. You have the Wisconsin game where you're up. You have the Oklahoma Big Ten championship game where
20 sneaky one. You'll love this one, Matt. 2011 Northwestern Kane Coulter.
Yeah,
man.
That was a really bad one.
that was a tough.
That was
one.
a really bad one.
That was fun.
That might have been the one where in the post game he yelled at someone for asking about, "Did you consider spying the quarterback?" And
He's like, "You guys don't
he
know
tried
ball."
to gaslight people into believing that
So-
no one's ever spied a quarterback in the history of the entire football planet.
I would say, I'd say the Melvin Gordon game, just because you have to understand from my perspective. I a lot of the Bo era, not a lot of it, all the Bo era. I never watched it with like the emotion
Yeah,
of
you're
really
Wildcat.
care. Yeah, I didn't really care, and I wasn't. To be fair, I wasn't really watching a
Is
whole
that what
lot
they
of
call
it
it? Do
either.
they call it wildcatting?
No, not. They don't call it anything. They
Because
don't.
nobody
Nobody cares.
Yeah,
They don't really
exactly.
call it. I mean, honestly, like it's a little overblown. My relationship with Northwestern football was I turned on the TV on Saturday and I go, "Oh, cats are on, cool."
If
Like-
And
anyone
you were
over-
shocked to see that Kane Coulter was doing it to the Big Red.
Yes.
Well, you were
but-
like, "Whoa,
but-
Nebraska's number like 9."
Yeah, they
But
were
What's
top
going
team.
on?
Well, my dad was more shocked than anything because he actually lived through the time where Nebraska was incredible and his own eyes seeing this because, like,
It was shocking to all of us, Matt.
my dad's favorite team ever is the 1995 Northwestern Wildcats. And even he would admit that if they, those two played, Northwestern would get their ass kicked. Like, it
Well,
wouldn't
I mean,
even
everybody
be.
does.
It would, yeah,
Nobody
I know.
would- nobody
It
would
like,
disagree
like
with
you
that.
can't hold a candle to that, right?
The
So it's
closest margin was like 21 points. or
yeah,
something
so it's
that.
like so even he is like has always been in awe of Nebraska football, and he saw that game and was like, "What the hell is going on?"
And he was like, "Little baby Matt, come learn. This is going to be the greatest Northwestern football game you will ever see."
And
pretty
someday
good.
someone named Chase Claypool will ruin our life.
Ab-
He hasn't been born
Dude,
yet, but
dude,
when he
wait.
is.
But first, a similarly named Clayton Thorson will come along and make you happy.
So here's a note that I started and then I didn't fill out completely, but I had a couple of them. Mike's bad takes. My dad was rattling off some bad takes
Nice.
while we were together. So I wrote
We'll
them
be the
down.
judge of that.
Okay. The Final Four should be played at the United Center.
I mean, I like
That
that
was-
it'd be in a basketball
that was his-
arena.
that
I
was
like
his
it in a
first take.
basketball
But
arena.
Okay.
the United Center, I do not like. So
I had to explain to him. I go, they would go from 70,000 people.
But people would actually get to see the game.
That is true.
They don't care about that.
Michigan is a fraud. He said this when they were up 10 versus Arizona. My dad, this whole entire
Not a
weekend,
fraud.
was trying to tell me how he doesn't think Michigan is good.
Sadly, he is wrong about that.
Yes.
I wish he was right,
Yeah,
but I can't come up with an argument where he is.
like every
Right.
even
When he
Arizona.
says fraud, does he just mean he doesn't think that they're clearly a great basketball team?
He just doesn't believe in them. He just didn't
Okay.
believe in them. Like
He
they were
the
up.
word fraud too much.
They were
I
up.
think.
They were up 15. They were up 15, and he was like, "Arizona's going to make this game. Arizona's going to make this game. They're going to come back."
So I think he just hates Michigan.
I think that's where it
Which
stems.
good take.
Which is
That's a
I'd
good
support
take.
the take.
The
I
final,
support the general basis of both of those takes.
yeah.
Not so much the United Center specifically, but an arena. Yes.
So this one, I don't think either of you are going to agree with.
Okay.
This is the coup de grace of Mike's bad takes.
Here we go.
Even I was taken aback. Now, he at some point was sitting down and they were doing a review. Okay. And he basically said he wants more referees and he wants more reviews. He was like arguing, he was getting really mad about
Really?
there were some obvious calls that were not being called on the floor. In particular, they weren't being called for Arizona.
He wants
thought that-
more.
I would have
he
thought
was-
about last night.
Once again,
thought-
this all stems back to him hating Michigan,
Yes.
which I generally support.
But he was really like he went on a 5-minute rant about how they needed a separate referee that's always at the scores table that can just chime in and stop the game at any point and be like, we got to overturn that call. That's what
It's kind of what the NBA control center is.
That's
right?
what the NFL does that. They have the buzz guy.
Well,
I don't know that I hate this take. Now, on the surface, I don't want more review.
No.
he
ever.
wanted another human at the desk, and he wanted also another human, like another Jeffrey Anderson running the floor.
If you
He
called,
wanted a fourth and fifth referee.
but I don't know how you could watch that game and be like, "Oh yeah, we need more whistles."
That's what I was saying. I'm like, we've
But I
wasted
don't
a
want
lot
less
of time.
either. Like, I don't want to go down to 2 officials.
Oh, right.
So, like, we're in a very finite, like, 3 feels fine. If
I-
it went to 4, I could live with it in the court situation.
I was getting a little annoyed at him, and he goes, I should be a guest on your show.
He should.
And I was
Wacky
Is
Guess
it
Wednesday.
and I was like, you don't have a credit. Like, you're not a writer from anyone. He goes, I've been watching sports for 45 years. All right. That's a credit enough. And I go,
Get him.
and then
I like that.
and-
He's your dad.
and
That's
then-
his it.
and then he continued, and then he got a little offended when I like told him no, that I like didn't want him to be on the show.
Well, turns out you don't have this call.
and then
it's
and
Josh's
then
call.
and then he goes, well, you said you wanted mom to be on the show. You know, you guys talked about mom being a guest, and so he's really pushing it. He's really trying to make this happen. Now that I've mentioned it, probably will
Who
happen.
would be the better guest for the listener?
I actually think he would be a great guest on your show, because if he was a guest on my show, I would just be like,
You would just be annoyed by him. the
yeah,
whole
I
time.
would
Yeah,
just be
okay.
like, hey, how are you? Yeah, did you take your shot today? Like, did you take your medicine? Like,
I just
you-
like
you
the
know-
super on the StreamYard, Matt's dad. You know,
Yeah.
where it's like you
like,
do the name and
I'm
then where they're
intrigued.
from.
yeah, but like,
The
I would,
picture is him just holding tiny baby you,
I would just kind of be like, I'd just be like, all right, whatever. Yeah,
or in
I
his blue
hear ya.
Nebraska gear.
But if you two had him on the
his
show,
yard things, his yard.
oh, his Rudolph the Red-Nosed
His
Reindeer
nose.
You get
statue.
as mad at me when I ask simple questions of you as you get at me,
He might. I mean, that's where I get it from.
the McMaster temper.
Seriously, I mean, it stems from Mike. It doesn't
Well, I don't want to
stem
make
from
him
Marty.
mad.
No, but I think that if he and
You
I'm by the way, I'm not saying I don't think you want my dad on your show.
I
I've
do.
already met him.
But if like it would be way more entertaining if he came on your show, because you two would let him go. You would be like, I'm very interested in this.
Well, yeah, you would want to
ridiculousness.
control him.
Yes, 1,000,000%.
My dad very much wanted to be a guest on multiple radio shows and was asked, and I was like, nope,
No,
we're
absolutely
not doing
not.
this.
After this performance,
My thing is that there's no way he would not have been able to avoid saying something incendiary or bombastic or what. Like it would have gotten the show off the air. So
Yeah, no, he.
Are you worried about your dad
No.
saying something bad?
No. He
What's
knows
that?
better.
Okay. All right.
He knows.
That's good.
I mean,
I'm glad.
he might. Yeah, no, I don't have any worry about him. I mean, he's the type of guy that like before he sends in a meme, he sends it to me.
Just to make sure it's cool.
Yeah,
you're the clearing.
I'm I'm my dad's clearinghouse.
Matt McClearing.
Like he
NIL go,
he-
but
I
it's
love
Matt
it.
with his dad's memes.
literally like probably once a week. He goes, "Hey,
What
is
a
this?"
service.
He goes, "Is this inappropriate?" Or is like, would Aunt Rainey like be offended by this? Or it's like, or he'll send me text. He'll be like, "I wanted to send this text about Tiger Woods. Like, what do you think?" And then I would read
Careful.
it.
I
and be like,
love the
yeah.
idea of an older generation using you as a clearinghouse to
Seriously.
talk to a younger generation.
Mhm.
Would they be offended?
That's what
Do
he
I
asked.
have the right pronoun?
He goes.
Is this how we want to go about it?
He sent me a tiger meme, and he was
It's a
like,
$600 or above meme.
he was like, is this insensitive? And it was Tiger looking at like a straight.
Wait, did you clear it?
I cleared it.
Okay.
I thought it was funny.
All right.
It was Tiger with his caddy, and his caddy was like, I think it breaks a little bit to the left. And then if you look up, he was looking at a straight line with a cop just being like, "Hey, walk here, Mr. Woods." You know,
That
like
seems
that.
okay.
Sensitive.
A few small beers.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think like we definitely
Small
have some
beers.
sensitive people in our group chats and in our family
Sure.
and everything like that that would get riled up.
But
by him.
Tiger sensitive?
I've seen some insensitive Tiger memes.
There have been
There's a
some
lot worse
insensitive-
as it relates to
Doesn't mean
potential
they're
for
not
Tiger.
funny.
I think he was just making sure. He was just I appreciate him not trying to get canceled. All right.
I do too.
He's a 65-year-old man. I mean, it's a dangerous time out
What
there.
is canceled in his
Yeah, I was gonna say, what really happens when you get canceled at his age?
At his age,
He's already not a guest on your show.
I
And
think
his
he's
lack
more.
of profile.
I think he's more worried about getting canceled by like his family members. Like he doesn't want to be like casted
Have you
out.
canceled a family member?
Yes. Have you not?
Oh,
Have you not
don't
canceled a
think so.
family member?
Did it get too political during COVID?
Question?
Yeah, I mean they just do some. You got some people are crazy, man. And just because they're from your family doesn't mean they're not crazy. Doesn't mean that you don't like.
That's true,
keep
but
them
it
out of
also
some of
doesn't mean
those
you have to
things.
cancel them.
I have not canceled a single family member.
We have kept family members out of group chats. We have
Wow.
kept family member. There's a family member we no longer invite to Christmas because
Okay.
we're like they're a liability. They're no longer allowed here. They're not. They're a liability. They're just weird. We don't. If we can't help it, we're not going to have them here.
Okay.
Would you be comfortable? This is a good suggestion here from Sam. Would you be comfortable doing some sort of like a segment or a clearinghouse on your show where you decide if the Facebook posts about Matt Rule on Facebook are AI?
I would love to do that.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
fun use of that.
That seems like good. That seems good.
Quote, that's AI. Matt Rule isn't expecting a child. He did not pay for a sad child's lunch today.
I would do
That's
that.
you.
I would. I honestly, if there are any of our older listeners out there who have stories that they're curious as to whether or not they are real,
Send them in.
send them in.
Pick them up.
Matt at 1620 The Zone. That's the Equitable
Matt
Bank inbox.
McClearinghouse.
Matt McClearinghouse. I will let you know whether or not that's true. I will.
Good
I'm
bit.
of service. I am
Dylan
of
Raiola
service.
did not pay for the janitor's daughter to go to college.
Dylan Raiola isn't expecting.
Yeah.
But you realize that if you get got ever on any AI things,
I'm screwed.
It's over. Clearinghouse is canceled.
Yeah.
Clearinghouse is canceled.
Have you been got before by
No.
AI?
I've never been got.
Okay.
Never been got.
Well, we sort of got on the Bill Self thing.
Oh, there was a Rothstein. Now that
Somebody important retweeted it.
You got fake Rothstein.
Josh
Yeah,
got
I've been. That's
Josh
happened to
got
me.
fake Rothstein, and it
Was
opened
he?
me up to getting fake Rothstein.
I don't know. Well, I'll take the blame for it. That's fine.
I'll take the blame for it too. But I
You
got
get one pass.
I got opened up. I got opened up.
I
To,
think there's
I
a
let my
difference-
guard down because Josh thought it was real Rothstein.
I think there's a difference between AI stories and fake Twitter accounts that oppose like real Twitter.
I agree. I agree with that.
Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be equally as discerning about both and do
Yes.
everything we can to make sure it's accurate. But
But
I think
like-
one is more likely to get you than the other.
Rob Reinhardt Twitter account
Sure.
where he like
Not
literally-
real.
He's not real, but he says he's like an alumni from here, and he like literally
Yeah.
poses as a Twitter account.
That's
would
like the
post.
OG burner.
That was when
Not
I
OG
got
burner, OG
a-
fake burner.
the first tweet I saw from him. I was like, oh, is this like a real report? Like I thought that was a thing, and then it later got revealed that
What's
that's a
that guy
fake
saying
account.
today?
Scott
he did it-
Hughes. Scott Hughes is the new
Scott-
one this year.
Scott Hughes is a big one.
Yeah, there's a lot of good college basketball ones. this
There's a
year.
lot of great college basketball ones.
There's
But now
one that
I
specifically just does Dan Hurley stuff and UConn stuff.
I think that's the Rob Reinhardt.
Is
one.
that? I was
Yeah.
thinking that was the Scott Hughes.
do you guys know about vague posting? You know, vague posting where people like just say, "Oh, this isn't good," or it's like, "Wait till
yeah.
they
Uh-huh.
this is my new least favorite thing of all time."
Yeah.
Just tell me what's wrong.
Oh, that's
Tell me
funny.
what's happening.
Okay, so
I'm not
His
gonna
entire
go.
Twitter
this is-
account is vague posting.
His
Have you ever seen him watch a sporting event and then tweet about it?
okay.
This
drove
is
me-
not good.
The first iteration
This
of our
could have
show,
serious
it
implications.
drove me nuts.
But I know what I'm talking. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the game.
Do you?
And yes, I do. I'm watching the same game as you are.
Well, maybe.
So I
Yeah,
kind of
except his tweet is, "Whoa."
But to be fair,
The whole
like,
tweet.
You do be doing that.
I do.
but like
hand up.
Connor doesn't like quote tweet. Oh, France has
No,
moved
he-
there.
he
He
doesn't.
doesn't move.
He doesn't.
France
He
has
doesn't.
moved their entire gold supply from New York to France, and Connor doesn't go. Whoa, right?
Eyeball
'Cause-
emoji.
Yeah,
I
or
can't
something
remember
like
what
that.
game it was, but he had like 3 of them in a row, and I just like,
Yeah.
I took a picture of it, and I went in the next day. We're doing the show, and I'm like, just, can you explain this to me at all? Do you remember what was happening here?
I sometimes
And
like.
he vaguely did.
Big
We tried
news
to go back
story
in time.
happens, like you said.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
found a precious resource, and the quote is like, "This could mean a lot for a certain somebody."
Yes.
Like, wait a minute. Who?
Or here's this. There's a report that the United States have moved their aircrafts to the south, right? They've moved their aircrafts from north to south. Somebody will quote tweet, "Uh-oh." And I'll be like, "What do you mean, uh-oh? What do you mean? What does that mean? Am I getting drafted?"
They don't
What's
even
going
know
on?"
what they mean.
I know.
Getting
But-
drafted.
That's a whole thing now.
Yeah,
like,
Rob
amongst-
Schneider says bring back the draft.
Yeah, amongst Twitter.
Rob Schneider.
Yeah. Should
We're
be
listening to Rob Schneider?
Some people are choosing to listen to Rob
The guy
Schneider.
from The Animal?
That's right, very same.
Poll
The guy
question.
from Hot Chick?
The making copies guy. Yeah,
The guy from Benchwarmers.
that's right.
The guy who's not even good enough to be in Grown Ups by himself?
That's right.
that guy. So it's all these vague posters, the more so political vague posters, or like, because when you vague post, I know what you're vague posting about. With these other people, they
Kind
don't.
of.
And then I have
There's other sports.
He was like the jock in Benchwarmers.
Yeah, that is really funny.
Amazing.
His
I mean,
wife is like the model Molly Sims or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
What a far-fetched
That movie's
movie.
weirdly entertaining.
What a farcical movie.
farcical. You've been using that. I got
That's a farcical call.
You've been adding that a lot. That and I now say linear television on the regular, and I feel smart. Like I feel like I know more about the television industry than you do because
How
I
are the
say-
90s going, by the way?
We are. I was listening to it yesterday. What was I? Oh, the two-way or the rapper, I just learned about Ice-T and Cop Killer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
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 And about the
Now
LA
old people love him.
the LA Times. Well, yeah, because he's on CSI. But like the LA Times and
Very
then
high Q.
lower wiping out some words that you can't use and phrases that you can't use, and then also, the one rappers, the two-way something like they released this really popular album
Two Live
that
Crew?
was Two Live Crew about it was basically a pornographic album that they
That's
released.
Two Live Crew.
Yeah. Like there was
Josh remembers fond memories.
I listened
He and his Walkman.
I listened to one of their songs. I was like, whoa, okay. And then that was that. So that's where I'm at. I'm enjoying it. Closterman's great. I just finished
The
because
censor Tipper Gore chapter, basically.
yes,
Yeah.
basically. I'm still trying to get through his Simmons interview that he did the other day.
It
Where
was not good.
he suggested
Whoa.
he suggested a regional draft. You didn't like that idea.
No,
You didn't find that funny.
It just basically, and I'm only halfway through it, but the first half of it is pretty much just they've had these conversations before. None of it is particularly new or interesting.
Too much NBA.
They
I don't care
spend
about
a lot of time trying to fix a sport that they've tried to fix many times that is unfixable.
Yeah.
And then compared it to baseball for the 70th time.
The crossover is powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Boys, you have a great rest of your day. Middays with Matt coming up next here on 1620 The Zone. Middays with Matt live and rolling here on the 1620 The Zone Radio Network. Matt McMaster is always joined by Josh Otson, back from the motherland. It was a great weekend, had a fun birthday. I'm no longer a tiny baby 23-year-old host. I'm now a tiny baby 24-year-old
There
host
it is.
here
Thank
on
you.
1620 and 97.7 The Zone. So great to be back in the chair. We want to thank Michael Severe, who was phenomenal yesterday. I was able to tune into a little bit of the show, listen to all the great work he was doing. We love Michael. I would not be in this chair without Michael Severe. I think plenty of people know the story of him setting me up for a lot of my early opportunities in broadcasting. Always thankful to Michael. And Michael will be back on today. He actually was already in the StreamYard studio, just trying to check his connection and see if everything is okay, if the link works. So Michael will be with us at 11:20. We'll actually talk about some of the stuff that he was talking about yesterday on the show that I was able to catch, along with now if you're a sports sicko like me, we're fully in the NFL draft season. I've mentioned this before. This NFL draft to me is a little bit boring. Okay. I'm not as caught up into this NFL drafts like I was previous drafts, just because you don't have the sexy positions of need at the top of the billing. You don't have all of the fancy quarterbacks. You don't have all the top caliber wide receivers. You have a couple of interesting edges, but there's not like that Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa type edge in this draft. Now, Reuben Bain and David Bailey would say otherwise, but it's definitely a draft that's got a lot of offensive tackles. Yesterday, Todd McShay went on the Rich Eisen show and said he thinks that there will be 12 offensive linemen taken in the first round. Yeah, not the recipe for the best and most exciting type of draft, but we will talk.
Does ABC know that? Does Robin Roberts know that?
I think they do.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the number one quarterback being taken, and it seems like it's a for sure thing at this point that Fernando Mendoza is going to the Las Vegas Raiders, isn't this charismatic enigma that everybody is so excited to see drafted. So we will, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Matt's in his off season. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Well, for the next month, aren't you going to maybe you get deeper into the ponies?
Okay, so here's Connor Happer and Mike Schaefer. I don't want to take their bits, okay? I don't want to steal their content, okay? Because that's their show and we're our show, okay? But they have hit the nail on the head for the last couple of weeks here that this is a great, weird sport year. You know, we had the Winter Olympics. The Masters, right? We're going to get really, really into the Masters this week. We have some announcements for McMaster's matchup that we'll make later this show. We'll reveal who ended up entering the McMaster's matchup. That thing that we're doing that will give you $250 based off of who wins at Augusta this weekend. But we have the Masters this weekend. We are going to have the World Cup coming up soon. I was watching some soccer matches.
My son very excited for the World Cup.
So we have all that stuff. Yes, we are a show that we love the ponies. We love the Kentucky Derby. We love all of that.
When's the Santa Ana?
It's Santa Anita
surprise.
It's not a Santa Anita surprise.
It's not.
It's a Santa Anita Derby.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't checked up on the ponies in a while. I'm gonna be real with you. Paladin went down. That was our stallion. That was our knight in shining armor. That was our horse in shining armor, if you will. That was the one that we were going to wheel.
But now a small town couple from Oklahoma who only has one horse and their barn burnt down is going to win the Kentucky Derby.
For sure. Not everybody's barn burns down.
Seems to happen a lot.
Okay,
though.
it does. Maybe we should invest in like some more flame-proof barns. Maybe
you got to go to Tough Shed. No free promos, but
hey, that's how we make our millions. They all say John Baylor, the voice of the Nebraska Cornhusker volleyball team, came up to me one time and said, Mr. Baylor, do you have any advice for a young broadcaster? He goes, you know what, son? Yes, I do. He goes, come on, before you get into the broadcasting business, start a business yourself. Make yourself some money. Teach some kids ACT. Come on, right? That's what he told me. He goes, before you get into broadcasting, start a business.
Not a bad John Baylor.
Start a business. That was bad. That like turned into Jerry Seinfeld there. You got to hold the reservation, right? You're going to take, anybody can take a reservation. Oh, to take a reservation. You got to hold it.
What's the deal with the ACTs?
What's the deal with studying? Everybody's studying. Actually, we definitely do have to do a study on like ACTs and the inflation of scores because it just seems like everybody's getting 32s nowadays, you know? I'm just saying, back in the day, if you got, I felt like I would read books and it would talk about how smart people are, and it would be like, yeah, you got a 30 on the ACT. Now it seems like kids are rolling out of bed and getting 33s. It's a little bit ridiculous. Not enough people are talking about it. Maybe it's John Baylor's fault. Maybe he's making these kids way too smart. Anyway, though, that'd be a great business if we made flame-proof stables so we can stop. But I think NBC would be mad at us.
Yeah, they wouldn't have any stories to tell.
We got to stop this business. We can't do any featurettes anymore. Nobody's barn is burning down. Oh, we'll just do another Secretariat promo. That's what they do. Barns are burning down and something about Secretariat. So anyway, we will talk not about horse racing, not about the World Cup, not about barns. No more John Baylor impressions, okay? I'm going to call a win. We are going to be talking about college basketball. This is probably the last time that I will get to do a fully loaded college basketball show, and then we have to start getting creative. We'll hold that off until tomorrow. Today, we're talking hoops, baby. We're talking Michigan. We're talking UConn. We're talking Dusty May. We're going to talk Indiana. We're going to talk Ohio State. We're going to talk about, is Dusty May proven that you can build through the portal? Has Dusty May given you the roadmap as to how to win a national championship? Is the market now inflated? Some big names are going in to the college basketball transfer portal, which opens up today. John Blackwell entered the transfer portal. John Blackwell, if you're a Big Ten basketball fan, which apparently there were a lot of Big Ten basketball fans taking massive victory laps yesterday, as it was the first time in quite a while that the Big Ten won a national championship. You know the name John Blackwell, the Wisconsin shooting guard, averaged 19 points last season for the Badgers. He's in the transfer portal. He's rumored to be worth $5 million. Okay? Do you know how much his head coach of Wisconsin basketball is going to make next season, Greg Gard?
Oh, no.
$3.95 million. All right? We are very slowly creeping into the era of college sports where it might be a regular that players are making more than their coaches, if they're not already. There might be a player or two. I don't know how, because some of the teams that are paying, like, you know, Kansas probably paid $5 to $6 million for Darren Peterson, but Bill Self is making $8. You know, like the teams that are paying this insane amount of money for players, they're paying their coaches off pretty well as well.
I would guess. Look at the St. Louis roster.
Great point.
I don't know what that feels like. A ratio that might.
Great point, Josh.
Be advantageous for the players.
That is an incredible point because apparently rumors are they're going to spend $10 million on their basketball roster. And their head coach, how much does John Schertz make? Let's look this up. John Schertz contract. Any guesses? Any guesses for how much John Schertz
it'd be rather gauche of me to guess.
You think it'd be inappropriate for you to guess? He did sign a contract extension on Sunday.
Okay.
It'd be great if the St. Louis Spectrum local news ended up giving us
Pinko commie rag.
This is ridiculous. How can you publish a local article saying your coach signed a contract extension but not tell us how much he is making?
Because it's a private university.
Has agreed a contract extension to remain with the Billikens. This is ridiculous.
It's a private university. It doesn't have to be public.
You don't have sources? We don't have sources that can have a speculative number?
Well, my source was Majerus, and sadly he left us a number of years ago.
Good point. Very, very, very good point. So, college basketball transfer portal is open. Some interesting names are out there. We mentioned John Blackwell. We'll see what Flory Badunga does. He got Terrence Hill Jr. He averaged 15 points for VCU. Najee Hines, he was a really good player for Seton Hall. Bryson Tiller was another guy that Kansas really wanted last year. They got him. Now he's back in the transfer portal. Oswin, I can't say his last name. Oswin from Providence. Okay, power forward. I think he's 6'11". He's a guy, so he gave Creighton basketball a lot of problems. And the first game that Providence and Creighton played, Providence ended up winning. He had a monster game. We had not only did Mac go on the post-game show with John and admit that they tried recruiting Oswin coming out of high school, but as well that when we had overtime, I believe it was Coach Murfeld came on and was like, "Yeah, we know all about him. We were very much in it." that'd be an interesting name to see if maybe they try and rekindle that relationship. We talk a lot about how once you don't get a prospect, maybe the first go around, you always got to kind of keep that bridge up, right? You want to keep that door open. You want to keep that relationship strong because you never know when they're going to be available again. That's a name to look out for. Funny enough, I think we're in the double digits now in terms of college basketball teams that have 8 or more transfer portal or guys who have 8 or more guys who have entered the transfer portal. Providence and Northwestern, the 2 teams in the Power 5 who have 8 or more players in the transfer portal. Not great for the Friars and definitely not great for the Wildcats, who Northwestern seemed like they were building a pretty strong core of freshmen that they were going to work off of for the next couple of years. And now all of them, because of, the lack of finances, seems like they're hopping in the portal. Tyler Kropp, the last one out of those freshmen for Northwestern, into the portal. A lot of these teams, some teams are going to thrive in the portal. Some teams are going to have a great time, and some teams are going to lose a lot. If you want to switch to women's basketball, kind of the top story right now is the Lady Volunteers. They have 1 player on their roster. Tennessee's women's basketball team has 1 player on their roster. Insanity. So we will continue.
Do you go to the coach and the AD when you're the only one on the roster and go,
"What are we doing here?
Hey, I'll stay, but
pay me.
You're going to pay for my loyalty."
I don't know, man. Like, if I'm the only, yeah, I honestly, Josh, because at this point, how do you even trust that they're going to be able to build a good roster around you?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you weren't that good to begin with the year prior, right? You'd be like, are you just going to have to get a bunch of mid-major people that you don't have to pay a lot to like fill the roster because you're Tennessee and you have to have a women's basketball team?
That's not going to fly there.
Yeah, no. So we will see what happens in Tennessee. We're going to see what happens across the country. Robin Washut of Husker Online and On3, who was on the show yesterday with Michael Severe. Michael will be on at 11:20 today on this show. But Robin released a list of potential targets for Husker basketball. Robin even wrote in his forum, these aren't just names. I was being careful. I'm not just going to throw out names. These are some things that you should keep your eye on. These are players that you should keep your eye on. I've written them down. I've got the stats. I have everything you need to know about them. I haven't watched them on tape. We're just writing down stats and seeing tendencies, shot tendencies, how many 2s do they take, how many 3s do they take, their assists, their steals, their field goal percentage, all that stuff. You can clearly see out of some of these targets that Robin has revealed on Husker Online, who's replacing who. Who is this guy supposed to come in and do their job? Who is this guy supposed to come in and fill this role? You can kind of see based on the numbers. All right, clearly this is the guy they want to fill in for Rake Mask. Okay, this is the guy. This is the Sam Hoiberg replacement. Okay, this is the Jamarcus Lawrence replacement. Oh, they want more shooting just in case Connor Season, maybe he doesn't come back fully. He's not fully recovered from the knee years, not up to what he used to be. Okay, this is the guy who could be the depth piece. Okay, hey, this is the dude. Maybe Oogie. I mean, Fred revealed yesterday that both Oogie, or I believe it was 2 days ago, revealed that Oogie and Connor Season, they're, going for medical redshirt waivers. And they're still a couple of weeks out from playing, being fully back for basketball. And Oogie's still dealing with that back problem. So we'll see what happens. But you could see with some of these targets, all right, clearly this is the guy to replace this. And so these are just rumors, by the way. This is Robin doing some great reporting, being like, these are potential targets, but definitely could be a guy that we're not talking about that Nebraska takes a swing at. At the same time, it was made very clear they got a core and they want to keep that core together more than anything else. So we're going to talk about Nebraska basketball. We're going to talk about the transfer portal. We'll talk about Michigan. We'll talk about Dusky May. We're going to talk about Dan Hurley. The University of North Carolina hired a head basketball coach.
Technically.
Mike is not fully finalized yet. Everybody in the mouth reported yesterday. But Mike Malone, come on down. No longer have to be on ESPN dealing with Kendrick Perkins and all that stupid NBA show crap that he was doing. You get to be a coach again, and you get to be a coach again in Carolina Blue at Chapel Hill. Congratulations, Mike Malone, the former NBA champion head coach, going to UNC. UNC got turned down by some people. If you told me 10 years ago that a coach would say, nah, I'd rather be a Hawkeye than a Tar Heel, Would have called you crazy, but some men are built different. Was it a good hire from UNC? Was it a bad hire from UNC? Are there reasons to be happy? Are there reasons to be concerned? We will talk all about that and more. Angel Reese got traded. We'll touch on it quickly. And the Chicago Bulls cleaned house. Fire Billy Donovan, please.
Almost cleaned house.
Please.
They cleaned a lot of the house.
But not enough of it. It's like your mom coming into your room being like, all right, yeah, it's better, but you just put the clothes under the bed.
Looks pretty great in here, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, it smells great. Well, yeah, because you took Axe body spray and you ran around here and you made your room smell better. You still got stuff rotting in the trash and you still got some clothes underneath your bed. Get a hamper, put the clothes in there, do the laundry. How about going hire Nasai Ujiri? How about that? How about you go and hire Mike Dunleavy? Huh? How about that? How about you make some real change around here? Billy Donovan. They want to extend Billy Donovan. They want him to be there long term. Get out of here. But don't get out of listening to Middays with Matt. We have a great show ahead of you here on the 1620 The Zone Radio Network. We'll have Tim Verghese on at 12:20 to talk everything Husker recruiting. We've had some news kind of come through in Husker recruiting over the last couple of days, some visits that are being set up. We'll talk to Tim all about that. Don't forget to tweet at us at the Liquid Trucking Zone Twitter feed, at Matt McMedia, at Producer Josh, the Equitable Bank inbox, Matt at 1620 The Zone, Josh O at 1620 The Zone. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally. If you ever want to get at us through call or through text, 402-951-1620 is the number. That is the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline, where you can make all of your Masters bets this weekend. And we'll have some announcements with McMaster's matchup coming up here on Middays with Ben on the 1620 The Zone Radio Network. We have some local head coaching news.
Oh.
Mr. Josh Odson. The Omaha Supernovas announced an hour ago that they are making a head coaching change. Released by the Omaha Supernovas communications team, they have announced today that the team has parted ways with head coach Luca Slabe and promoted Thomas Robson to interim head coach for the remainder of the 2026 season. Blake Rollins will remain on the staff as an assistant along with Coach Robson. Co-owner Kirk Thompson says, "We appreciate Luca's contributions and wish him the best moving forward. As part of this franchise from the beginning, we have full confidence in Thomas as he steps in as interim head coach with a focus on reaching the MLV championship in Dallas." The Omaha Supernovas 11-11 to begin, or this not to begin, just to play this season. 500, obviously. The inaugural champs a couple of years ago when it was the Pro Volleyball Federation when it was the PVF. Won that title. Obviously have a very, very high standard as to playing volleyball, and obviously in the best market when it comes to the MLV, right? I mean, they are the ones that are consistently setting records and selling out the CHI and having the best attendance. And so when you're trying to be, and this is, talking to people and have connections there with the Supernovas, whenever you talk to somebody who works for the Supernovas and who's in on the ground floor, they always say premier volleyball franchise. We want to be the premier volleyball franchise. We want to be the top pro volleyball franchise in the country. We want, when people to think of pro volleyball in America, we want them to think about the Omaha Supernovas. Let's be frank here. Not going to do that being 11-11. Not going to do that being 500. So they go ahead, and I imagine it's always hard. I've never had to make a coaching change before in my career. I've never had to sit down and have that conversation, but I imagine there are some times probably where it is an easy decision. I like to think it was a pretty easy decision for the Bulls to move on from Jim Boylan. But sometimes maybe it's not the easiest decision, especially when you're making those decisions based on a coach that isn't even below 500. But the Supernovas go ahead and make that change. Lucas Slabe out, Thomas Robson in for the Omaha Supernovas. Let's keep it local here. The transfer portal is open today in college basketball. We have some local news. Owen Freeman, the former transfer from Iowa to Creighton, who unfortunately suffered a offseason injury, tore his meniscus. It took him a long time to get back from that, to fully recover. You can make the argument he never really showed that, or had the opportunity to fully show how he was fully recovered. It just never really got his legs under him. When he did get his opportunities, especially in January and February, it just didn't pan out. He was brought in, nothing harder than being the guy after the guy. And nothing harder than being Gerard Mayo after Bill Belichick. It's really hard being Hubert Davis after Roy Williams. It's hard being Adrian Autry after Jim Boeheim. Like it's hard being the guy after the guy. And that's what Owen Freeman was asked to do. He was asked to be the guy after Ryan Kalkbrenner. He was asked to fill shoes that, frankly, I don't know if anyone will really be ever to fill those shoes in terms of the impact and how long that impact lasted that Ryan Kalkbrenner made on the hilltop. And Freeman already, it was a very tough ask for him to try and fill that role. And then on top of that, suffering that injury in the offseason and then having to recover from that. And then, when he did, I thought he played a really good game against St. John's, and it seemed like he was progressing. The second time they played St. John's, it seems like he was moving in the right direction. And then what happened? Suffered a concussion in practice. And, Matt called it a freak injury, and it was one of those things where it's just like he could never catch a break. He couldn't catch a break in the injuries in the offseason. And when he did seem to start playing more physically and finding his stride, couldn't catch a break there either, getting hurt in practice and now into the transfer portal. Look, I think a lot is going to be said, and when we do revisionist history over, Mac's career, we'll bring up a lot of great, but there always will be, that last season, if they executed better in the portal, it could have been a much better send-off than going to the Crown and losing to West Virginia in the Final Four. This happens, Owen Freeman, is not the first time that Creighton has just didn't work out in the portal, and it won't be the last time. It will not be the last time, ladies and gentlemen. This is how, I mean, college, it's still college basketball, it's still college sports, but we're closer and closer to pro sports in college than we've ever been before. And when we get to this pro sport model and we take those steps to it, this happens all the time in pro sports. It happens all the time where your team goes out, they evaluate a free agent, they pay that free agent a lot of money, they lock them up, you're really excited about it, you're saying, all right, here we go. This is going to be the missing piece. This guy's going to fill this hole. This guy's going to take the next steps. He's going to put us over the top. And then it doesn't work out. If you're a pro sports fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're a pro sports fan, you're probably closing your eyes and thinking through all the names of the guys that your team signed that you were really excited about, and it didn't work out. This is one of them. This is kind of the trick of the trade. This is going to happen. You hope. Let me just say this. You hope you have more hits than misses. Because if you have more misses than hits, then you're not going to be able to make those hits anymore, if you know what I'm saying. But didn't work out with Freeman. Unfortunately for Mac and his staff, and now Huss and his staff, there are some things you could control. There are definitely some things you can't control. Obviously, him getting injured in the offseason is something that Creighton can't control. And just never really got his legs under him and never contributed the way that he wanted to. And so the Owen Freeman era in Creighton is over, and they will have a big task on, once again, trying to fill that hole. They still got to get an inside presence. I mean, that's the top thing that they have to go and address. And there's a lot of things that they have to go and address, but let's be frank here. There's a lot of things that seemingly a lot of teams in college basketball have to address, because even if you have a great team, if you look at this NBA draft that's coming up, there's going to be a lot of great players, a lot of high-quality players that are going from college basketball to the NBA this offseason. So it seems like everybody across the country has holes that they need to fill. That one on the top of the list for Creighton men's basketball. Nebraska men's basketball also lost a player in the transfer portal today. Quinton Rhymes, the former 3-star, 6'7", guard forward, red shirt, didn't play. Fred talked about early in the preseason that, obviously he made some freshman mistakes, but he was progressing in a nice way. I think that sometimes you hear some whispers of guys of like, oh, he might be progressing. Oh, he might be a guy that could make some contributions. Around this time, you heard some whispers of Frager. Not that, let's just say, the whispers about Frager really started picking up, after the summer and heading into fall. But you still kind of heard that this might be a guy who could contribute for him. I personally, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of everybody, but there wasn't a whole lot of whispers, if you will, about him, about, hey, this is a guy that's going to make some big contributions or whatnot. And so, it kind of happens, right? It's happened before with Fred and with Nebraska basketball, where, last year it was Janikowski, right? Where he goes to St. Thomas and he had a pretty good year in the Summit League, where it's just a guy that, was a freshman that didn't really contribute. You're hoping he contributes in the future, decides, hey, maybe this is the best place for me to get some playing time. I'm going to enter the portal, go ahead and get some more run at a mid-major, or whether, whatever it might be. And so that's what's happening with Quinton Rhymes. 12 out of the 15 roster spots have been filled for Nebraska basketball. We have some potential targets for Nebraska men's basketball. We have some potential guys that maybe you keep your eye out on, that maybe Nebraska will be pursuing. Now, Fred made it very clear in his latest press conference, hey, we're keeping our core together. Hey, that's number one. We got to retain what we've built. We've built something. We got some momentum. We got to get the money to keep them here, because we have our core. But some of these names pretty interesting in terms of what they did last season, where they are coming from, and what they did and what they can provide in the roles that they can fill. The top name here is Drew Fielder. Fielder is a 6'10" forward from Boise State. On the 2026 college basketball portal rankings, Fielder from Boise, he's actually listed as 6'11" here, according to 247 Sports. He's considered a 4-star transfer portal target. He's the 52nd overall transfer portal recruit in the class of 2023. in 26. Funny enough, he's 2 spots ahead of a guy that Nebraska played in the NCAA tournament this year, Thomas Dowd of Troy. He's number 54, also a 6'8" power forward. But back to Fielder from Boise State, All Mountain West last year, 14.7 points per game, 5.7 rebounds. Here's the big thing. 54.7% field goal percentage, 60.8 efficient field goal percentage, PER of a 25.8 last season. That's your player efficiency rating. Typically 15 is the number that's considered to be average, so 10 points above average in that regard is Drew Fielder. Here's the big one. Here's the top billing. 40% from 3. Now, immediately you go, all right, 6'10", 14.7 points per game. His field goal percentages are high. He's shooting 40% from 3. Man, he's not taking a ton of shots, is he? He's not taking a ton of 3-pointers. Well, he's averaging 3-point attempts per game last season at Boise State. So this is a guy, brings the size, has a scoring ability, 15 points, all-conference guy, 5.7 rebounds, efficient from the offensive end, can stretch the floor, 40%. We talked about this, right? I think the 3 things that you identify for Nebraska in terms of what they need to get in the portal is a point guard, is a rim protector, and is that stretch big, that guy who can fill that rink mask role. Fielder, immediately a guy where you look at his numbers and what he was able to do at Boise State, and you say, okay, all right, he fits that mold. Can score the ball, can be another option behind Price, could be another option behind Braden Frager, but also brings that spacing that gives a guy like Braden a lot of room to work and get to the bucket. Here's another one from Utah Valley. Trayvon Lenhart. It's a 6'4" guard, 12 points per game, 50% field goal percentage, shoots fine from 3-point, 37% from 3, good number, 3.4 3-point attempts. Here is the important thing. Trayvon averages 5.2 and 6 assists per game over his last 2 seasons with 2.1 steals. I see a 12-point per game scorer who can shoot the 3-point ball at a fairly efficient rate, who's not afraid to take that shot at 3.4 3-point attempts per game, who's also averaging 5.6 assists over his last 2 seasons, who's stealing the ball over 2 times a game. Who does that remind you of? We had a pretty similar stat line to that in the Big Ten this season. If your answer is, it sounds like Sam Hoiberg, that was my first thought as well. It's a guy can create off the dribble, can be that point guard, can spread the floor as well, 37% 3-point percentage, but also 2.1 steals per game, can be active on the defensive end. Nebraska's going to need that. They're going to need that energy. We know that last season it seemed like Nebraska was playing their best basketball when they could turn the ball over and get running in the other direction. It seemed like, too, it was fairly frustrating towards the back half of the season where it seemed like Nebraska would get a lot of turnovers, but not necessarily capitalize on points off turnovers. But that's a whole other team thing, not necessarily a Lenhart problem. But this is a guy, very interesting prospect potentially for Nebraska to go after. Spreads the floor. One thing that he's got to fix, 2.7 turnovers per game. Definitely got to lower that number just a little bit, near 3. And then there's 2 more prospects here. Fairly interesting, fairly similar to the ones that we mentioned before with Drew Fielder from Boise State, Trayvon Lenhart from Utah Valley. Granted, all these names are from Robin Washut on Husker Online and On3, providing these are some potential targets for Nebraska basketball in the transfer portal. Trayson Anderson is a guy from North Dakota State, from Lincoln, Nebraska, local kid, 6'10" forward, played in the Summit League last season, 10.4 points per game, 50% field goal overall, shot 35% from 3 off 3-point attempts per game, had a 57% efficient field goal percentage. Once again, would fill that kind of stretch 4 type of build, being 6'10" plus with the ability to shoot some 3-pointers. And then from Loyola, Maryland, a sophomore guard, Braden Speed, 15 points per game last season, 4.4 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 44.5% from the field, along with 36% 3-point percentage. A guy that definitely can create his own bucket off the dribble if needed. High volume scorer from Loyola, Maryland. So some interesting prospects here for Nebraska basketball that they are looking at. Obviously, if all of this comes to fruition, I think Fielder would be at the top of the list in terms of guys that you want. playing in the MW, having the numbers that he had, being on an all-conference team, 14.7 points per game. Definitely played in the best conference out of all these guys that Nebraska potentially could be after. At the same time, 40% three-point percentage. I mean, I think that was the key for me for Nebraska last season, right? It was just so clear that 2 years ago, that team that did not make the Big Ten tournament, they lacked spacing. They lacked the ability to hit the three-point ball. They relied so much, especially down the stretch, on Bryce Williams to be their playmaker on the outside. And I think oftentimes it was just like, all right, Connor, you got to run around and try and get open and take some of these shots if we're going to get some three-point spacing here, because Jawan and Berke just weren't as efficient as you needed them to be from the outside. And that would just tank their offense, in terms of, those guys, just the wrong guys taking the wrong shots. And, when you have the right guys taking the right shots, that means that you have other role players who don't need to fill roles that they're not comfortable with. And I think that was a big point was for me when Rink was struggling the way that he was, and especially when he was dealing with his sickness and everything like that, it forced Berke to be in kind of that third score role. And when you have Berke, when he has to take that responsibility, I think it makes him worse because he's doing the things that he's not as good as now, and he's sacrificing that in not doing the things that he really, really is good at. When Berke doesn't have to be the third scorer, Berke can just focus on rebounding. Berke can just focus on cutting to the basket. He can just focus on playing some really good defense. He doesn't have to worry about what he has to do on the offensive end. And so if you can bring in a guy like Fielder or even bring in a guy like Anderson who can take kind of that stuff off of Berke's plate and just say, okay, hey, we got our three scores. We got Frager. We got Sanford. We got Fielder. Berke, you're the 4. You're the 5. Whatever we decided to be. Rebound, buddy. Go and get those rebounds. Go and be a Rodman. Go and be the energizer, buddy. Go and be the guy that's bleeding from the mouth, that's pumping everybody up, that's being the heart. Because Nebraska has lost the heart and soul of their team in Sam Hoiberg. Someone else has got to be that heart and soul. Somebody else has got to be that culture guy. Somebody else has got to be that dude that all of Pinnacle Bank Arena is crying for when they're walking off the court on senior day, right? And obviously Frager has that hometown connection, and Sanford just has the connection of being a stud. But from an emotional, Nebraska athletic fans in general love nothing more than guys who give effort. If you love the University of Nebraska, you say how much you love the University of Nebraska, and you give a ton of effort, that is the number one mainstay way of being a hometown favorite. That's how you get them to buy your jersey. That's how you get them to talk about you when you're gone. That's how you get people to look at you and what you do with rose-tinted glasses, okay? Berke does that. If you remove the three-point shooting and the scoring and you get off all of that off of Berke's plate and you tell him, hey, big boy, rebound the ball and play some D and give some energy to our crowd, he's going to do that better than anybody that you have available on your bench. And you can only do that if you got a guy who is your third scorer, who can space the floor, who can give room to have more important. I mean, Frager, I think Braden, really, don't get me wrong, really, really good three-point shooter. But when he starts getting to the basket, when he starts slashing to the basket, when he starts moving and trying to take guys' soul on dunks, that's the Braden Frager I love. That's Braden Frager I like a lot. You need a guy, though, like Fielder or Anderson, to space out the court a little bit. I like the prospect, too, of maybe getting the Lenhart just because 2.1 skills per game. Need some active hands. Give me Michael Severe, our fill-in host from yesterday, joining the show next here at 11:20 on Middays with Matt on the 1620 The Zone Radio Network. a man who criticized our proof of performance. We're here to let him know we have changed our proof of performance. We called an audible at the line. We said, check with me. Yellow, yellow, yellow. Ric Flair. And now we have a new proof of performance. And he also was the man you could have heard yesterday on these very airwaves from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., but not at his regular time slot at 5 o'clock on sportsmanlike conduct. Those hacks taking away that precious interview time that so many people, they sit up at their chair, they get their phones, they're all ready. I get to listen to Michael Severe once a week. I get to listen to Michael Severe on Unsportsmanlike Conduct, and that hack John Bishop took it away from the people. He is not happy about it, and neither are we. We are Team Severe. Whatever. Now you say jump. You know what I say? I say how high. It's the executive director of the Jet Award Foundation, Michael Severe. How are you?
I'm okay. There was a lot involved in that just now. He told me he thought the extra half an hour at my age might, harm me. So he didn't give me he bumped me off for a month.
It might harm him, but you're in great shape.
No, I'm fine. I'm good. I can talk. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're getting up running around as you're doing it. You're just kind of, sitting down and talking. So it's not a lot of work to do that. I could talk plenty, but I spent the last 3.5 hours staring at a computer, putting in numbers. So that's been great. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We have some, I'm a bad radio host, and I was meaning to make a graphic, and I didn't make a graphic because I'm lazy. I forgot about it. But we have some thoughts on the Jet Award Gala. So let's begin.
Okay.
Salad, pretty good. That
was my favorite salad, by the way. I thought the only thing I ate was the salad. I didn't have anything else. I ate the salad.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have time to eat. So I was sitting there talking to my mom, and it was sitting in front of me, and it was a little quarter wedge salad. It
was a wedge. I think a wedge is a great call. Josh and I agree that a wedge is a great call in terms of
together
salad. It does. One critique. There was a little bit of inconsistencies on some wedges, okay? Some people's wedges were a little bit bigger than other people's wedges. Some people's wedges were like a sliver. Some people's wedges were like icebergs, okay?
Well, I don't know if you've ever been into a locker room before, but that's what it is. Not everybody got the same size. It doesn't work the same.
The Jet Award Gala, I always say it's like a football locker room.
It's like a football locker room. Yeah, we're dressed up. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How was the rest? How was the chicken? I didn't even try. I didn't have the chicken.
The chicken was good.
Or the potatoes or
our chicken was not dry. We were a little bit under on the green beans. It was a little bit tough.
I heard that about the green beans. Yes, I heard that about
just slightly under. But I'll tell you this right now: those fingerling potatoes, I taste them right now. They were
good.
Incredible. They were nice. They were crispy. They were perfectly cut.
Yeah.
Seared on one side, but boiled nicely before. You get that little yin to the yang. The chicken was good, man.
Okay, good. Good. I'm good. Good to hear.
I've been to a couple of these galas now, and it always is chicken. Not Jet Award. I'm saying in general.
Oh, yeah.
Many galas at this point. I've been like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And I would say that chicken is up there with some of the better just main entree that we've had. So very good.
The desserts.
Holy
Dessert was good. Yeah.
So first off, I didn't have the cheesecake. I had
the mousse.
I had the caramel chocolate mousse in this chocolate cup. This beautiful like Garibaldi, cup that you're there. Whatever that fancy ass chocolate is.
Yeah, I don't think it was Garibaldi. I think that's a former manager of the Padres. I don't.
Okay,
well, Girardelli.
There we go. Yeah,
that's probably a former manager of the Braves. But anyway, that mousse was insane. It was one of the best. I'm being serious. Chicken.
No, I wish I could have had it. I wish I could have had
it. And the iceberg salad. Like I had a tiny baby iceberg. Josh had a big iceberg. It was a good salad. That dessert is one of the best desserts I've ever had.
That's designed because you have people there that are gluten free.
Yeah.
So that can be your gluten free one, while other people can eat the one that has the crust on it that has the gluten in it. So the only gluten items were the croutons.
Oh, okay.
And the crust from the cheesecake. Other than that, everything else is gluten free.
Really?
Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you.
Gluten
free. Very
good. We also had 20
vegetarian
meals that were available if somebody needed to ask for a vegetarian meal.
Overall, I would give the Jet Award Gala out of 10 for food. I would give it a 7.6. A 7.6 overall. Great across the board. Didn't necessarily get my socks blown off until the end of the meal at the dessert, but
Yes.
great stuff from you. Way to put together a very good meal.
Thank
You also put together a very good show yesterday. I was listening to some of the show. Thought it was great. I have a question and a counter for you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you had a topic yesterday about why you don't understand why people are rooting for the Big Ten as a Nebraska fan.
Oh, I will never understand rooting for and I feel so good because I got 7 texts from people who are like, I know I've never gotten the whole cheering for a conference thing, and I'm like, I'm with you, dude. I've never cheered for a conference.
And I agree with you because I'm an NFC North fan. I don't like the Lions. I don't like the Packers. I don't want the Vikings. I don't care about any of those teams. I'm not thinking, oh, a win for the North. Hell yeah. Like the North has won playoff games. But I will say this. Can I give you – I'm going to pose a counter and then you can crap all over it. In this era of college sports with how just separated it is, right? I feel like we used to look at college sports as, all right, it's one league, and then we have these like 5 conferences that all lead up to the one league. But because of NIL and the transfer portal and the separation of powers and the SEC and being, the Big Ten being the 2 top dogs, it's almost as if we have like 5 leagues that makes one big super league. And the success of conferences gives you more ability to have power at a negotiating table, to make more decisions when it comes to TV or make decisions when it comes to the college football playoff. And that motivates people to want their conference to win, because if their conference wins and it gets elevated, it also elevates their own team. Do you think that's a valid reason as to why people should root for conferences?
So let me go back. So when I was a kid, you didn't talk about conferences. It was parts of the country, right? So you had the teams that were in the East, and you had the teams that were in the Gulf Coast. You had the teams that were around Texas and in the middle of the country and out west. So we didn't really talk about the conference names. I don't remember that when I was a kid. I don't think of it that – see, I've never had any animosity towards the SEC, right? Just never cared. Never cared. The conference I hated was the Big Ten. That's who I hated. I hated the Big Ten because what they did to Penn State in '94 when they didn't support them for the national championship, when many of their writers didn't vote for Penn State despite being undefeated and the best team in the country that year, in my opinion. And so because of that, I've never liked the Big Ten. I've always hated Michigan since I was a kid. I just never liked Michigan at all. So that's my thought of it. In terms of how it makes your other team, I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. I mean, Nebraska needs to win, right? And if they win, I don't care what happens to all the other teams around them. We're not talking about basketball where you have to have a certain, in net, or baseball where you have to have a certain RPI and team. You win if Indiana went 16-0, right? Year before that they went 12-1 or whatever. They played nobody. The one team they played, they lost. Doesn't matter. You win your games. That's all that matters. And so I don't care how good the conference does around me. I'm gonna cheer against teams I don't like. I don't care if they're in my conference or they're in another conference or they're whatever. That's just the way I am. So I don't care about that part of it for how it makes Nebraska look. Should Creighton have felt great if UConn would have won yesterday because they had beaten them? It's stupid. That's silly. That's something you think of when you're 9 years old. Like I said, I thought it was a big deal when the Rams made the Super Bowl in '79 because the Saints played the same division in the West. And then my older cousin told me I was stupid, and I've never thought about it again.
Do you think there's any significance to the Big Ten winning 3 football championships in a row and then now capturing the women's basketball championship and men's basketball championship? Do you think there's any significance to it?
Just like I never thought it was a big deal when the SEC won 9 of 10 national championships in football. Alabama won that one, and LSU won in 07, and in Auburn, that it was never the SEC. It's those individual teams. Ohio State happy, Indiana happy. Rest of conference should not be happy. The people dealing with the coffers should be happy. The people who are fans of the teams, my team didn't win, right? I don't care if their team, unless I'm married to somebody who went to school there or something, and I have some kind of feeling that way about it. But no, the teams win. In my opinion, a conference does not win. People can think. I know people think that way. It's just not my thing. I don't believe.
Yeah. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't care. I don't even have an opinion on it. Breaking. I don't have an opinion.
You think the Big 8 was happy that Nebraska, or then the Big 12 was happy that Nebraska was dominating? Hell no, they hated Nebraska. They voted against Nebraska in every single chance they could to hurt Nebraska. They took away Prop 48. They changed everything they could. They weren't cheering for Nebraska. Matter of fact, Kansas hated Nebraska. Kansas State hated Nebraska, which you found out later when they got to beat them and how they acted when they beat them. No, people weren't cheering for conferences back then. I don't know what happened to our society.
I do. Well, I think what happened is that the college football landscape changed to a point where people think that conference success matters greatly to them because you want your conference to be at the top of the negotiating table. But the fact is this, right?
I don't think most people think that, Matt. I think that is a limited opinion in this area. Like my buddies who live like in Houston or Philly or Los Angeles, they don't give a damn. They don't think about that at all. We think about that here because we're in the business. We think about that. I think the general average person in the world doesn't think that way.
Okay, so here's the reason why I brought that up, though, Michael, is that I'm a logical human. And so I'm trying to logically think what would the argument be as to why they would do that, right? So I'm like, all right, this is what would maybe make me feel this way. If people are just rooting for the Big Ten because their team is in the Big Ten and there's no like other ulterior motive to where your team would be positioned because of the success of the Big Ten, it's stupid. It makes no sense. I think you're just non-competitive because you're like Schaefer brought it up today. Like, do you feel any better about Nebraska basketball season because Michigan won the national championship?
No. And do you feel better because they only lost to them by a couple of points? And no, it's just like, no, you still lost to them and you'd like to have beaten them. And no, I don't. And by the way, I turned that game off at 3:25 left in the game because I was so frustrated by the officiating in that game. The way they allowed, and people were talking about UConn was physical. You crazy. Michigan was picking up at half court, three-quarter court, and hand checking all the way down the court. They called one foul on a hand check. Since 1960, hand check has been a foul call, okay? It has been. And they don't call it all night last night. It was ridiculous. They were pushing. How many times were there pushes under the basket where guys went flying and they didn't call anything? Well, the officiating was brutal last night.
The amount of times, Michael, where I see a guy on the floor and I go, you got to call something.
He had to be there. How did he get there? Did he trip?
I know.
Did God knock him over? How did he get there? Was it an Easter thing?
Even May and Hurley seem like even if it's against me, you gotta call.
You gotta call something in that. I thought it was ridiculous.
You gotta set a precedent, Michael. If you don't set a precedent, then I'm gonna keep shoving your ass all over the court and give myself some positioning to go and get the rebound.
They did set a precedent. They called the penalties on UConn. They didn't call them on Michigan. That was the precedent they set. That was the precedent they set.
I thought it was a great quote from Dan Hurley, who was like, we actually played the game plan the exact way that we wanted to play it. And this is what it ended up.
Yeah.
Obviously they don't make the threes. Man, if you're Indiana, you're like, if you're an Indiana basketball fan, you got to be puking right now.
Oh, yeah, because of his ties too. Yeah.
He went to a Final Four and they said, no, we like Mike Woodson better.
Yeah, well, he was at FAU, right? Went to the Final Four at FAU, and then at that point, you got to say, let's take So where was Indiana? Like, what had happened to Indiana the year that happened?
I don't think they had any sort of success that would have warranted.
Going back to Mike Woodson, I don't remember them having really any success under Mike Woodson at all.
I think did they win any? They were a 4 seed one year, I believe. Like they had a pretty high seed in the NCAA tournament, but I think they got knocked out right away. Let me go to Sport Reference here. So
because I do not remember them having much success.
The year before, so the year they could have hired May, right, which would have been last season, 2024.
Yeah,
they were coming off of missing the NCAA tournament.
Exactly.
Okay,
right.
So they could have easily have gotten rid of Woodson. Now, the year before they missed the NCAA tournament, so 2022, 2023, they were a 4 seed and they lost in the second round. The year before that was the first year of Woodson, and they were a 12 seed and they lost in the first round. So essentially, they had 3 years of Woodson up to that point,
right?
And only 2 NCAA tournament bids, and one of them were a top 4 seed with 1 NCAA tournament victory. And you had a guy who was the student manager for the late years of Bobby Knight, who just went to a Final Four, and you said, no, we're gonna keep rolling with this guy.
Yeah, and he's a video guy. He had been around multiple years. Yeah, I agree with that. But if you're Indiana, you got to treat it like Auburn treats things. Auburn football says, I don't care what's happening. We're firing whoever it takes to keep winning. Yeah. And it doesn't always work, but it has worked for them in the past at times where they're just like, look, we're moving on. And as Indiana, as a basketball program, you got to say the same thing. You just got to be like, look, I don't care what's happening right now. We need to be better. We'll fire somebody.
Well, I think also too, it's like this is one of those conversations, and you and I have had it off air before, of like we allow feelings to get in the way of business decisions.
Yeah.
You know, where we're like, oh, we like this guy, we want to give him a proper chance or anything like that, and then you end up making that mistake, and you don't end up hiring the guy that takes Michigan to win a national championship. There's another tweet here from a couple of years ago. Ohio State. This is Ohio State reporter. Hearing word right now that it's coming down to Jake Diebler and Dusty May of FAU for the hiring of Ohio State's basketball job. So instead of taking Dusty May, Ohio State took Jake Diebler. Do you have any thoughts before I let you go on Mike Malone going to North Carolina? The outside.
I was shocked that they hired a guy. Does he have any experience in college?
No.
That's crazy. Listen, it's such a different beast in the way they play. Hell, they're two halves. Okay? You want to find something different? They're two halves. The only organized basketball that has two halves. And if I had a chance to get Billy Donovan at the end of all of this, and I knew that Billy Donovan was interested, I would wait for Billy Donovan. I think Billy Donovan is a great college coach. And if he wants to come back, let's bring him back. Not that I say that Malone can't coach well. He won a title. He won a title with the greatest basketball player currently. Can I say currently in NBA? Can I?
Say you can say Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA.
So he won 3 out of 4 MVPs or whatever.
I'm not going to yell at you.
Okay, I'm just saying. Anyway, I don't know who you support. Maybe you're bringing up somebody from like Michael Jordan again. I don't know. You're a Chicago guy. But all I'm saying is that if he won with that, do I know how good of a coach he is overall? I don't. Do I know how good of a college coach he can be? I have no idea. So I would have hired somebody that had college experience. That's just me.
He's had 0 head coaching experience in college. He was a Providence assistant back in 1998.
In 98? How old were you in 98, McMaster?
I was a thought in the wind. I was not even.
Think about that.
It was nothing.
Think about that.
Actually, I wasn't even a thought yet. My parents had their first kid, Christopher, in 98. And I think they were like, we're poor. We're not having another kid.
I will say this about yesterday. That 68.5, smooth under first half, easy. If big man makes a free throw, we get the 3.5 too, right? And I don't even know what the final was. I literally turned it off and have not watched a second of coverage. I don't even know the final score. I know nothing about it. I didn't even pay attention. Nothing. I reported the morning show, everything. I didn't listen to anything.
Yeah,
Did they cover?
I think.
What was the final? 7.5. Did they cover the 7.5? UConn?
They did not.
They did not. Okay.
63.
They didn't cover?
They did. 69-63. That's a cover.
They did cover.
Well, UConn did, yeah.
I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. UConn, remember they had the run where they had 9 and they were 9-1. Well, they're 8-1 against the spread. Now they're 9-1 against the spread.
I got killed yesterday.
You did? I had the under. That 3.5 should have hit. He missed that free throw. And then the 2 points, right? It was all right. It was good.
I was a Cadeau 3-pointer away from a dumb parlay I made.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 10 to win 150. Had Caravan over on 3-pointers. Had Lendenborg over on second half points. It was 9.5. He got 7.5. He got 9. And then I was one Cadeau 3-pointer away in the second half from hitting it.
Yeah, I was all under. I was under for everything. I thought it under.
I live bet it was like a 138.5. Or sorry, it was live bet 138.5 over.
Yeah.
And that was like in the middle of the first half, and I got killed. It was a dumb bet. I made some dumb bets. We're making some good bets though tomorrow for the Masters. You a Masters better?
I used to be. I used to be in a bunch of leagues. And I am in none of those now. Because I watch very little of it anymore. I don't pay attention.
I'm in a pool.
I was in multiple pools. I was in a Survivor thing. I was in a matchup league for a long time, which is my favorite, where you pick and then you go against the other person who their representative is. Yeah. And you got the Masters thing.
McMaster's matchup, but the major tournament in Augusta.
We'll
announce that. Yes. So, hey, thank you for coming on. Thank you for hosting yesterday. Thank you for filling in. You're the best. Always appreciate these conversations. Coming up next, quick version of the odd news here on the 1620 Zone Radio Network. Josh Odson. I've missed you, son of a gun.
Matt McMaster, how the heck are you?
I'm great. Great to
Good.
talk to you. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Let's turn that down. Let's get started.
Dude, I gotta shave my beard. My God, I'm a slob.
You think so?
I hate how this
Okay.
looks right now. I've just been touching my beard all day. Do you have any beard odd news stories?
I don't, but I have a man who probably is feeling pretty stupid right now.
Oh, what did he do?
Well, his name is Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, he is a guy who feels pretty stupid off.
He is a former Connecticut Husky,
He is.
and he bet former Michigan Wolverine Taylor Lewan that UConn would win the national championship game.
Okay.
They obviously did not. So what does Dan Orlovsky have to do?
Switch agents.
He needs to do that, but no, that's not the punishment. He has to wear a dangly Michigan earring
Oh, wow.
every time he is on television between now and I believe the NFL draft.
What? That's like 3 weeks. That's like a long time.
Yes, and Dan Orlovsky is on television a lot.
Yeah, he's on like every day.
Okay, Michigan wins. Dan Orlovsky must wear a single dangle earring on the right side with a Michigan block M for 1 full month on all media, sports, or otherwise.
Oh my God.
If he forgets a day, the month restarts. That's high stakes.
That's insane. That's ridiculous.
That's a dumb bet.
By the way, your team was a 6.5 point underdog. What are you doing? Your head coach goes, "We're playing as great as we can right now, and we're down 6." That's what your head coach thought.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible. All right, last story for the
Last story. Okay, then we're going to skip that one.
Okay.
We go to Iowa.
Ooh, all right. Woman,
Yep.
grocery store,
No.
Toyota Camry.
No.
Damn it.
Well,
Oh,
I don't know what kind of car, but you
Okay.
were right about a car.
Okay.
Rock Rapids, Iowa, a 73-year-old woman arrested for operating while under the influence on back-to-back days. Brenda was arrested at 9:45 on April 1st. Cops found it was a Honda Accord, a 2014
Dang
Honda
it.
Accord. And then she was arrested on Thursday, April 2nd at 8:30. So 23 hours apart, she was arrested
My God.
for driving under the influence, which on its own, not terribly funny, but nobody was hurt. And
You think the officer pulled up and she goes, "You miss me?"
me again.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're
it's
like,
Rock Rapid. How big is it?
you know those jokes like when you see a guy, like you saw them earlier in the day and then you see them later in the day, right? And it's like, you're like, "Hey, couldn't get enough of me?" Or like, "Long time no see." Or here's a classic one. "What, you put a tracker on me? You just follow me around?"
I'll just give you my phone number,
You think
officer.
you think she just pulled one of those off?
Mhm.
Couldn't get enough of me? Sorry,
You
I
got to
swear.
try and play the fun side of this, right?
You got to play like the cops theme song when they're walking up to the car. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you?
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, all right, Brenda, you dummy. Don't drink and drive, you idiot. There you go. Public service announcement for Matthew McMaster. Another PSA is check the back seat, if you will. Never forget to do that. Not enough people. 1 in 6 people. But a lot of people listen to us here on Middays with Matt. And coming up next, we're going to talk about. I have thoughts and no thoughts on Mike Malone being the next head coach of the University of North Carolina. Find out what those thoughts and no thoughts are in about 5 minutes and 15 seconds here on Middays with Matt on the 1620 Zone Radio Network. Had some today's been a pretty active Tuesday for local news. And it's just one of those where kind of Tuesday is kind of a meh, it's a day.
Yeah, you drop your news on Monday, and then you deal with the fallout the rest of the week.
Yeah. Like maybe on Wednesday there's an interesting story or games or whatever. Tuesday is typically just I honestly think Tuesday, in terms of the rankings of the days, might be falling into the bottom. Is Tuesday the worst day of the week? Do people dislike Tuesday more than they like Monday?
I think people outside of this room probably detest Monday the most. I tend to like a Monday show because
there's a lot to talk
You got
about.
like 2.5 days of stuff you can talk about.
I don't know. I think I might disagree with you.
Okay.
I think there are 9 to 5 people who don't like Tuesdays, because at least on Mondays, if you had a bad weekend, or maybe you had a weekend where you're doing so much and maybe you like your work, breaking.
Some people do.
Maybe you like where you work, and Mondays you're like, hey, I like to see my work friends, and I don't get to see during the weekend, or I get to talk to these people, or whatever it might be. It was a good weekend. Now to restart. Tuesday is just nothing. What is Tuesday?
I think I read a while back that like late night hosts like Fallon and those guys, they've said Tuesday is like the hardest night to book guests.
Oh,
because
okay.
Monday everyone's back into the routine. Friday, if you got a movie coming out on a Friday, you can come out and promote that on a Thursday or Friday. But
or a Wednesday.
Tuesday is
what's going on a Tuesday.
Just kind of nothing.
Here's another thing too. We got Monday Night Football. All right. I have Thursday Night Football. I got football during the week. Do you have Tuesday Night Football? No, you don't. Tuesday's just kind of a nothing day.
Don't give Goodell any ideas.
I have to get on Pablo Torre Finds Out again and start watching the videos, because they just dropped another one with Florio about the NFLPA and how big of a mess they are with JC Treader. God, gotta get back on that. There's going to be a lot of. If you don't like collective bargaining agreements in sports, I have some bad news for you.
You're going to hate the next 2 years.
Literally. We're already writing articles about the MLB CBA and the MLBPA and the fact that they have a war chest of over $400 million, which, I don't know, I think that sounds better than what that actually is. Hey, we have a war chest of one team's payroll. Literally. Our war chest is just what the Dodgers pay in one season. That's kind of tough. But other news that has been coming through. So we talked locally. Lucas Slabe out for the Omaha Supernovas. Thomas Robson in for the Supernovas. 11-11 in the MLV. Obviously trying to be the premier team in pro volleyball. 11-11 is just not going to cut it. And their hope is that, Robson can, try and connect with the team a little bit better and in an amplified manner and get them going in the right direction, considering the fact that roster of the Omaha Supernovas is still very, very talented. Other local news too, Owen Freeman in the transfer portal after 1 year. The transfer originally from Iowa comes to Creighton. Unfortunately, tears his meniscus in the offseason, just was really never able to get his legs under him and contribute in a way that the Creighton men's basketball team was hoping that he would contribute. And then Quinn Rhymes, a high school prospect from last season for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, did not play the season, took a red shirt, entered the transfer portal. 3 roster spots open for Nebraska men's basketball. They have a couple of targets already on the board that have been reported mainly from On3 and our very good friend Robin Washit. Speaking of On3, we're going to have Tim Verghese of On3 and Inside Nebraska with Rivals on the show at 12:20. Some other news as well. Fernando Mendoza not going to be attending the #1 overall pick. Potentially will not be attending the NFL draft in person this season. The last time a #1 overall pick did not attend the NFL draft was in 2021 when the Jaguars selected Trevor Lawrence. That was the last time we did not have a #1 overall pick. You want an unpopular opinion?
Please.
I understand that people like the traveling NFL draft. I understand that people liked it when it was in Chicago for 2 years. It was cool when it was in Kansas City. It was really cool when it was in Green Bay. It was cool when it was in Detroit. They're going to have it in Pittsburgh this year. There's already the renderings for what it's going to look like in D.C. Didn't Nashville have one too, right? Didn't Nashville have one?
Yeah, I believe you're right.
And so, like, there's a lot of people who, and credit to the NFL, they made it a traveling event and they made it a must-go-to event, especially if you're in and around that area. I believe last year, John Bishop's son went to the NFL draft. They just took a road trip over to Green Bay and went to the draft. It's
really?
Yeah, it's a really cool thing that people do. There was a magic about it being in Radio City Music Hall.
I agree, Matt.
There was I don't know, man. There was something there. There was just
I get it. If you can sell tickets to have people sit on a hill on a grassy knoll and like make your money, but
there was just I don't know. There was some character. It's only in.
Hey, you want to come? You want to come watch a press con? Let's road trip. We'll watch a press conference together.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. It was just like they did it in Radio City Music Hall. It was a small little venue. It had all those. It was an older venue. It had all the seats. Every time the Jets drafted,
yep, that's what I was gonna say.
Everybody would get, let's go, the Jets, right? And there was
a fervor in the building whenever the New York teams picked.
And like there was also too where it was a small enough venue, and because it was indoors, you could hear the murmurs when a trade was made or something big happened, or
they didn't like that pick,
or it's like when Trubisky got drafted, I believe it was still in radio. Well, I mean, but maybe that's a bad example. I can't really remember, but I feel like when they made bad picks, you'd hear the whoa, can't believe that happened, right? I know there's something about Radio City. There's something about it that I liked, and I get it. It's a great event. A lot of people can attend the NFL draft and all that type of stuff. Kudos to them. Kudos to you for going. But maybe I'm wrong here, but maybe I'm just like idolizing the things I loved when I was a kid. Maybe I'm nostalgia porning people right now, but it's just like, I don't know, man. There was something about it. There's something cool about it. There's something cool. Every time Goodell got up, be like, boo. They still do this today. But it was a good time. Fernando Mendoza, not going to be at the NFL draft. Let's get to some business here. North Carolina hired outside of the family. The first time since 1952 that the University of North Carolina made a quote-unquote outside hire. Their big swing was to Tommy Lloyd. Tommy Lloyd got paid by Arizona to stay in Tucson. He
took less, though.
He did take less. He did take less money,
Carolina
but still,
offered.
$7.5 million over 5 years. I mean,
nice raise.
Yeah, and you're in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be real with you. Now that I'm a well-traveled individual, all my vacations I take her back home to Chicago, as the joke goes. I've been to Arizona. Arizona rocks.
It does.
Arizona rocks. I went to Arizona in March. I was like, I don't want to leave.
Ask Mac.
It's awesome. So he stays in Arizona, makes a lot of money in Arizona, has a lot of support in Arizona, can get those prospects that he wants to get nice and easy over in Tucson for the Wildcats. Then they took a swing at Dusty May.
Sure.
The Michigan head coach, the national champion, Dusty May, who is a freak, man. He's such a good basketball coach. Did you hear the story about they were worried about Arizona's size around the basket, but they wanted Cadeau to throw lobs to Adai Mara so he would throw them off the backboard and Mara would catch it and then rebound it and then score? Like that was so Cadeau got credited for multiple misses. And they weren't misses. They were passes off the backboard of Mara. And they also did. I told you it was going to be a math problem potentially for Arizona because they did not hit the three ball well. That's now a shot that they took, and they don't shoot them as good as well as Michigan. Michigan said, "We're going to pack the paint." I'm sorry, you got a big front court. So do we. We got Marez Johnson and Adai Mara. We're just going to pack this MF and paint, and we're going to make you shoot the 3-point ball. And then Lendenborg went out. They kind of teetered for a little bit, ended up winning that game, and then they won the game yesterday. And it was a slobber knocker fight in a way, but they kept credit to Michigan. Like we want to credit UConn for sure for hanging around, making the shots they needed to make, making it a game and whatnot. But every time that UConn, you would think they were getting some momentum. You thought, all right, hey, this is the run. This is the moment they come back. This is where they grab all the momentum. You have a McKinney 3, or you have a Cadeau 3, or you got a Gale 3, you got something, or you got a putback from Roddy Gale. which was absolutely ridiculous. So talk about a guy who really performed in the NCAA tournament. Roddy Gale Jr. stepped up big time for the Wolverines. But they went after Dusty May. Dusty May said, nope, I ain't going anywhere and staying in Michigan. There was a report on Twitter that they called McCollum. McCollum picked up. They asked to interview McCollum, and McCollum said, no, I won't interview. That was a report. I don't know if that's been confirmed. But after all of that, after going after Lloyd, after going after May, after reportedly going after Ben McCollum and being told no and no and no, they hired Mike Malone. I'm very indifferent about it. Mike Malone's a good coach. Like from a just straight up coaching, the guy won an NBA championship.
Is he a good coach?
Yes. What are you talking about?
Is he?
Yes, he is. He won an NBA championship. He has a career winning percentage of 59% in the NBA.
Easy to win a title when you have the best player in the league.
What is he supposed to do? You know what? Here, I give a lot of credit to Mike Malone because of this. If you look at the history of the Denver Nuggets, they've had to make some really tough decisions in terms of what the roster was going to look like.
That is absolutely true.
They had to pick between Gary Harris and Jamal Murray, and they picked right. They picked Jamal Murray. People forget they had to pick between Nurkic and Jokic, and they picked correctly. They picked Jokic. They had to trade for Aaron Gordon, and Mike Malone had to convince Aaron Gordon, a guy who was super athletic, who was well-known because of his success in the dunk contest, who was considered to be a second option on the Orlando Magic. They had to convince Aaron Gordon, hey, we know that you think very highly of yourself and that a lot of people are telling you you have the potential to be a top 2 guy in a team. But you know what? If we are going to win an NBA championship, this is the role you need to fill. And the role you need to fill is really being the 4th guy on this team. And he filled that role. And the time that he was the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, they won 46 games, 54 games, 46 games, 47 games, 48 games, 53 games, 57 games. And then he was fired after going 47-32. The very famous quote from the owner of the Denver Nuggets when they fired Mike Malone was, we just told our guys to play with joy again. Kind of an oof. But this is a guy, he's 44-36 in the playoffs. He's a really, really good NBA coach. He knows what he's doing. He's highly thought of in the NBA. When he was fired from the NBA, from the Denver Nuggets, a lot of people said, what the hell are they doing? Now, granted, in the 1 year since they fired him, they've ended up having a very good regular season, the Denver Nuggets have. So it's not like they have completely fallen off without Malone. But still, Malone, solid, very good, very, very good NBA coach.
61-101 without Jokic.
Yeah, but so is everybody else without superstars, and I'm not going to take that argument. I'm not going to take that argument. What has Billy Donovan done without Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook?
He should get better players.
Right? Well, that's the point, Josh. You're given the players that you're given from your general manager, and then you manage those players correctly. And he got Nikola Jokic, and he won an NBA championship with it.
Just one?
Okay, so do we think lowly? I mean, only Giannis Antetokounmpo only has one title.
I got questions about that guy too.
You have questions about him? You have questions about, I mean, how many really good coaches are there out there?
I genuinely have no idea.
Because here's my question to you. How many titles have Steve Kerr won without Steph Curry? Is Steve Kerr a good coach, or is he just a Steph Curry merchant? How many titles has Eric Spoelstra won without LeBron James? Is Eric Spoelstra a good coach, or is he just a LeBron James merchant?
Luke Walton with Steph Curry, Luke Walton without Steph Curry.
I do not accept that argument because you can use that argument with every single coach. I mean, this is a bad example, but you probably don't think Doc Rivers is a good NBA coach. But how many times has he won a title without Kevin Garnett? You need great players to win championships. That argument of Mike Malone hasn't won anything without Jokic. Well, Phil Jackson hasn't won anything without Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant.
You saw him run the Knicks right.
How did that
go?
So no, he got the superstar. He won the championship. It says much less about you if you have the superstar and you don't win the championship. He did, and he's a very, very good coach of the NBA. I'm not worried about Mike Malone from a X's and O's standpoint. Very highly thought of in the coaching community. There was a lot of questions when it first occurred as to why he got fired from Denver. But now he goes to college. And, I don't blame Carolina for what they did here. Billy Donovan, it just seemed like it was unrealistic for them to wait as long as they had to wait to hire Billy Donovan, considering the fact, too, that would have been 5 days after the transfer portal being open. And that just seems like a really good recipe to kind of sabotage your first season when you don't hire a coach until 5 days into the portal.
See, that's the argument that I don't buy.
Yeah.
In all of this, like there's not an assistant that could have said, "Hey kid, we're in a week, we're going to get Billy Donovan. Why don't you come here and play for Billy Donovan?" Like you couldn't wait a week. Like the Bulls are over in a week.
There might have been some hesitancy on Billy Donovan to do all of this, and that was his big excuse to get out of it without telling them straight up that he didn't have interest. So it's maybe that's the case, but that's just what they're saying. I don't have an opinion on it. That's just what they're saying, that they didn't want to wait for Billy Donovan to be ready to be the Chicago Bulls head coach. Clearly, it seemed like there was a lot of interest there. I mean, frankly, before Malone got hired, if you told somebody that the Tar Heels were going to hire an NBA coach, it would have been, they hired Billy Donovan, not Mike Malone. Look, the cons here are this. He's got no national championships. He's got no Final Fours. He's never been a head coach in college. The evaluation process between college basketball to the NBA and high school to college basketball are different. They're just different. How you build, Michael brought it up in our interview, college basketball game is different than the NBA basketball game. How you build a college basketball roster is very different how you build an NBA roster, right? Where the NBA roster is way more based on who are our top two players, where a college basketball roster, as we've seen through this NCAA tournament, is more about who are our 8 players? How deep are we? How many guys can we play? What is our size? Now,
but they've never been more similar
in terms of how you acquire. Not in terms of how they're still very different. I mean, like take yesterday's game, for example, right? The NBA, unless you're the Miami Heat and partially the Memphis Grizzlies, is a lot of pick and roll. It's a lot of PNR. It's a lot of matchup hunting. It's a lot of getting the right switches. It's a lot about attacking guys who are weak on defense. It's a lot of downhill basketball. And then also to just transition. Where UConn, just for a comparison, they use sets that you would probably more see in FIBA basketball than you would in NBA basketball. I mean, they do stuff with weak side off ball movement that you don't really see as much in the NBA. And so the difference in styles, and there definitely is a variation from program to program and coach to coach. Now here's the funny thing, right? You would go, well, comparisons between the NBA and the college basketball is that big men and point guards, and we're going to see it through the portal, seem to be more of a higher value in college basketball than wings, as opposed to the NBA, where it seems like everybody is always looking for that 6'6" to 6'9" guy who can shoot off the dribble, who can shoot the three and attack the basket. And those are the main differences. But what I would counter in terms of an argument for Mike Malone is, well, if college basketball is about having a great big man and, having a point guard who can run the show and score on 3 levels, but also distribute the ball, it's exactly what he did in Denver. Like that's exactly how he if anything, if we're talking about zigs zags, Malone and the Nuggets, based off of how they were winning games with their personnel, were more so zagging than they were zigging with everybody else.
Hey, well, let's get a guy who's 6'10", and hey, when in doubt, throw it to the really tall guy.
Well, not even that. I mean, but look,
that's what he can do at North Carolina.
Oh,
right?
Sure. A million percent. I mean, and also too, like, Jokic is Jokic, and it's very hard to compare him to anybody. Really, I was going to say anybody in college basketball, but just anybody, period. But you're saying, well, hey, college basketball and NBA basketball are different. The counter I would give to you is, well, he's done a lot of the things in terms of the positions that you need in college basketball to be successful. He used those positions to be successful in the NBA. I think he's a really good coach. Won a lot of basketball games, coached a lot of big basketball games, won an NBA championship. In that big run that they had to win the championship, had to convince some guys who were pretty big elsewhere that they needed to take smaller roles, and they took smaller roles, and they ended up being successful because of it. I think that this is a good hire from a basketball perspective, but there's going to be a learning curve. There's totally going to be a learning curve.
Learning curve,
And-
and North Carolina is clearly going to lean into, no, we're a professional organization. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not a college team. We're
I think as well too, Josh, the one thing that does worry me is, and I haven't, I don't know if they've announced this yet or what they're going to do, but it's not like he's bringing in a staff.
Yeah.
And he's not bringing in any players. And that's tough. Like we've seen.
That's true. Normally you get the coaching transition. There's a couple guys that are like, well, that guy recruited me. I
Well-
want to play for that guy.
Well, that's what happened today. Jerry McNamara is going from Siena to Syracuse. Syracuse just picked up one of Siena's best players in the transfer portal who's going to come with him. Look what happened with Bennett Skirts and Ben McCollum.
That's
Ben
right.
McCollum just brings him from first off, Northwest Missouri to Drake, and then Drake to Iowa, just brings him with him. All right, great. Look at Golden over there last season for Michigan. Dustin May brings him from FAU. And so it's one of those things. Now, I think it'd be an interesting conversation to see what is it more prevalent in like football compared to basketball. I think we'll see if it works out for Eric Morris in Oklahoma State, but the obvious example is with Kurt Signetti going to Indiana, brings his entire staff, brings his entire roster. So that's a disadvantage that you would have, right? As opposed to maybe if you were to hire a Mark Byington from Vanderbilt. He comes in, he could bring his staff, he could bring in maybe some of the players. Is Mark Byington, though, a big splash hire that everybody's looking at saying, hell yeah, let's go? No, not really. And, I've definitely seen the, Mike Woodson to Mike Malone comparisons out there. I think the Woodson hire was a little bit farther along in the process of Indiana falling off and not being the power that they once were. But still, I think Mike Malone, good coach, knows what he's doing, knows basketball. The game of college basketball has never been more comparable to the game of the NBA. And if there was ever a time for an NBA coach, or a coach who has had mostly NBA experience to jump ahead and go to college basketball, this would be the time. This would be the time to do it. This would be the time when we are in a transactional, acquisitional era where we've seen some head coaches across the country kind of struggle dealing with players who get paid because of now that relationship, right? That relationship has changed because the players have some money in their pocket. Mike Malone has only ever really known one type of relationship when it comes to his players. And frankly, the relationship that he's known is mostly his players making way more than him, right? I mean, actually, it's going to be a transition for Mike Malone to probably coach some guys who are making less than him, because that typically hadn't been the case. So it will be interesting. I think there will be a learning curve. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't really have a full opinion on it. I'll be interesting to see how this all pans out. This would be actually kind of a great case study in a way. Hey, college basketball has never been closer to the NBA. How do NBA coaches fare? Mike Malone goes and kills it for North Carolina and proves, hey, this is the way that I've been able to adjust to the game, and these are the similarities, and these are the differences, and this is how I found success. I wouldn't be surprised if there are now more college basketball teams who would look and say, hey, let's go and look at an NBA candidate.
Many people in the chat telling us North Carolina tried this with their football program to disastrous results.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
It's true.
I don't think that Mike Malone, in his first year of having a roster at North Carolina, that people are going to say, we're not scouting any of those players. I think in Mike Malone's first year of being at North Carolina, that's what they said about the first game, North Carolina TCU. Thamel's on the field. He goes, there's a lot of NFL draft scouts here. I've been told not a lot of them are here for North Carolina players. They're really here to see TCU. So I think there might be a difference between the talent the basketball team will be getting, the football team will be getting. Talking about talent and acquisition of talent, we will be talking to a man who's all about that. Tim Verghese of Inside Nebraska. On Three and Rivals will be joining us next year on Middays with Matt on 1620. Alrighty, a lot has been happening for Nebraska football in recruiting. And, we here at Middays with Matt, we don't bring on the second best for anything. We don't bring on the third best for anything. We don't bring on anybody who's good at their jobs. We bring people who are great at their jobs. And somebody who's great at his job and who is, in my opinion, the best man out there when it comes to recruiting in Nebraska football, writing on it and reporting on it, is Tim Verghese of Inside Nebraska and On3/Rivals. Timmy V, how are you, my friend?
How are you doing? That was a very kind introduction.
I'm always kind to you. You're my man. You're my guy. I always appreciate you. You're very good at what you do. We have a lot to talk about. I do want to say, last week it was very funny. You and I had an interview where I think we did it for ourselves. Okay, we talked about the draft and about evaluations and said a bunch of names that people didn't really know a whole lot about, but we don't care because we were having a great time. Now today we can't have as much fun. We got to get into the nitty gritty. We got to get into the recruiting. We got to talk about official visits. We got to talk about potential flips. We got to talk about targets and whatnot. So let's start with someone who already is committed to Nebraska, but just took a picture with Mario Cristobal over in Miami. We are talking about the wide receiver, Mr. Caden Howard, the speedy slot wide receiver, as you call him, Tim Verghese, already committed to Nebraska and announced that he will have an official visit from June 12th to June 14th in Lincoln, but currently in Miami today. No offer yet from the Hurricanes, but how worried should Nebraska football fans be that there might be a flip coming?
I think it's something to keep an eye on. I don't think we're in any rush, I think, for a flip here. I don't think that's something that at least is on the table right now. That said, I mean, I put it on the board and it's a Phineas and Ferb reference, but if I had a nickel for every time a Nebraska wide receiver visited Miami in the last week, I'd have two. It's not a lot, but
yeah,
it is weird that it's happened twice because Tay Ellis was there this weekend as well. I think if you have a level of concern, be a little bit more concerned with Ellis more than Howard, just in relative to Miami. That said, I don't think either of them are actually going to flip to Miami necessarily. All that said, Howard's recruitment, was expected to be shut down once he committed. I think he thought it was going to be shut down once he committed to Nebraska last month. That hasn't been the case. UCF has been pretty relentless in their pursuit. They're going to get him on campus later this month. Minnesota offered him and wanted to get him to campus before he made a commitment. They wanted a shot at him. They have not stopped trying to get him to campus. Same with West Virginia, Mississippi State, Pitt, few others still involved. So, right now he's got the one OV set to Nebraska. We'll see if that's the lone OV he keeps, but as of now, that's the one he has set. But yeah, that's a situation I think worth monitoring for both those guys. Worth monitoring what happens in the foreseeable future, because I think Tay Ellis has said a lot of the right things about his commitment. He's been very firm in his commitment. He's been peer recruiting others to join him. It was a lot. It was pretty surprising to see him make a visit elsewhere, and I caught some people within the building by surprise that he was doing it in the first place. And once they got word of it, I don't think there's a level of concern with Tay. But it is notable that he's continued dialogue with other schools and continued talk.
Fisher said, once you commit to me, it's like we got to marry. This is a full commitment. And then he said that at the time it was a little bit weird, but now as time developed, this has kind of become a common thing. Guys commit, but yet they still take visits. Let's also talk about another. It wasn't an article. You put it up on the Inside Nebraska board that you flipped a prediction. You had a prediction for Cooper Terwilliger. How do I say that?
Cooper Terwilliger.
4-star tight end. Tight end has been in position, even dating back to Scott Frost, that Nebraska has recruited really well. We've seen Nebraska been able to get top tight end recruits in the country to commit to them. This is another guy in Terwilliger. I'm never going to get that name right. Who you predicted to commit to Nebraska, and you even described your prediction and his commitment as potentially imminent, that it was going to happen. And then now you flipped your prediction to Penn State and Matt Campbell. Why have you flipped your prediction? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What's going on here with this 4-star South Dakota tight end?
Yeah, so to be honest, I could have done this a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, I did actually write a story where I input a new prediction, two new predictions, one I like, one I love. Both those predictions are still in for Bayer Cottrell and Timmy Aliu, two offensive line targets for Nebraska here in the 27th cycle. But I also noted in there, one prediction I had for the fall that I hated was the prediction at the time I had in for Terwilliger to end up at Nebraska. And to be honest, it did feel inevitable at one point in the fall. At the time, he had visited no program more than Nebraska. Nebraska was really pushing to get that thing done. And then on his end, his mom is from Lincoln. He admittedly grew up rooting for Nebraska, following the program, developed a really close relationship with the coaching staff. He's been camping at Nebraska since after his freshman season. So he's been around this coaching staff pretty much since they've been here. But the other program that was right in there recruiting him just as hard, if not harder than Nebraska, was Iowa State. And the only thing separating the two programs at the time was Nebraska was in the Big Ten, and Iowa State was in the Big 12. Now Matt Campbell is out at Penn State with his entire staff. A lot of the same relationships he had in Iowa State have continued and picked up where they left off now in State College. He's been out there twice since Matt Campbell got there. He's just coming off another multi-day visit out there. Notre Dame joined the mix this spring as well.
Yeah.
And I was holding out on my prediction just because I did think there was still a chance he was going to make official visits. And if he was going to make official visits, very much thought Nebraska was going to get one. Coming out of this latest trip to Penn State, I don't think official visits are going to be made. And I actually think he's going to probably shut things down here potentially in the next week, if not the next few weeks. And it's going to be hard to see him end up anywhere but Penn State coming off that latest visit. So, and for Nebraska on their end, I do think they've seen this writing on the wall for some time now. They've pivoted. They've made some new tight end offers. They've kind of doubled down, of course, in their pursuit of Ahmad Hudson. They're also after Charles Davis, a 4-star tight end out of California, who's more like a jumbo wide receiver at 6'5", 190 pounds. Those are kind of the two guys I would keep an eye on right now. A couple other names I would say, or one other name I'd keep a close eye on, I think, who they're working to get to campus is Colton Johnson, a rising tight end from Tennessee, a prospect they'd like to get on campus here in the near future and add to the board. But yeah, it for sure stinks. I think it's disappointing for the staff, I think, to have invested as much time in that recruitment as they have, and then, not get a visit here this spring, unlikely to land his commitment. And I'm going to be curious to see, how the tight end board evolves, because that's a position where, with what they have in the room right now, and I think Luke Sorensen, for example, the freshman, has hit the ground running and been exactly what they expected. They would, in a world where they would take two tight ends, they would have loved to pair up Ahmad Hudson and Cooper Terwilliger. Now that they're out of it for Terwilliger, I don't know necessarily if there's anything pushing them or forcing them to take two tight ends this cycle. I think they may just be open to taking one, and if they're going to dial in on one, obviously the top target on the board now is Hudson.
All right, let's talk about it. This was going to be our main event question here. He's scheduled finally, because we've done this a couple times, Tim, where he schedules an official visit and then he's got something else going on. And obviously, the reasons as to why he hasn't been there, one of them being USA basketball, like you talked about a couple of weeks ago, very valid. But it seems like they're finally getting to the point where they're going to get him on campus. And my question is to you, how is Nebraska football trending? But also, he wants to play basketball and football. And the other team that Nebraska's competing against is LSU. Well, LSU's got a new head coach in Will Wade over there. How does that affect things in the recruitment of Ahmad Hudson?
Yeah, this is what I was waiting to see. I was waiting to see at what point was LSU going to start taking the basketball side of this recruitment more seriously, if that makes sense.
Sure.
They had been, of course, in the mix. They had offered, they had been talking to him about playing both sports, but the push hasn't necessarily been exactly what you expected from LSU from the basketball side of things. And that's changing. That's changing now that Will Wade's there. To this point, I think for a while now, Nebraska's been the most consistent program in terms of recruiting him at both sports. I think there's been a pretty consistent two-sport effort here from Fred Hoiberg's staff and Matt Rule's staff to sell them on what they're building at Nebraska in both sports, sell them on playing a featured role in both sports. But there's no getting around, obviously, what LSU is doing right now. I mean, Lane Kiffin there, they got him on campus for the first time last month since Lane Kiffin joined the staff. That visit went well. They've been in frequent communication, with that staff since they've joined. On the basketball side of things, his father was in attendance at Will Wade's introductory press conference, a former player for the Tigers basketball team back in the day. And of course, I think the legacy part of this is something that is also going to be hard to ultimately overcome. But that said, Tay Ellis, Trey Taylor, this coaching staff on both the football side, basketball side are in touch every single day at this point. They're going to get an OV, and they're hoping, and Ahmad's working to get on campus before then for another unofficial visit. He wants to see this program again. He wants to get around the staff again before he makes that official visit. And this is a recruitment that he's got a July 4th commitment date set. It's going to continue to play out till signing day, essentially. And if anybody's going to pull this off, it's going to be Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, can they pull this off, and what do they do moving forward to separate themselves from what I think is going to be an LSU surge. LSU started a surge in this recruitment, and I think they're going to continue to push here through the finish line. What does Nebraska do? Because they've done a lot right in this recruitment. They've at points of this have been at the very top of this thing. What can they do over these next few months to continue creating separation from themselves and LSU? Or is this going to be something where, at the end of the day, it was as simple as the in-state legacy just stays home and follows in his father's footsteps and plays at the program right down the road for two accomplished coaches in two different sports.
God, I wish you came on 2 times a week. Seriously. Because I got so many more questions for you, but we have to let you go. We want to thank you so much. Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska, Rivals and On 3. You are the man, Timmy V. We will talk to you a week from now.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. I'm going to tell you right now, I agree with Michael Severe. Tim Verghese just makes you want to be way more in on recruiting than you already were.
Whoa,
He's so good at what he does, man. He's really good at putting it all together. Look, not a recruiting expert. Okay. I'm not a dummy, but I'm not a recruiting expert. But when you tell me that Tay Ellis is a commit, he's taking another visit elsewhere. Caden Howard, he's a commit, he's taking another visit elsewhere. You're not trending in the right direction when it comes to Ahmad Hudson, right? Apparently LSU now is surging because they're taking the basketball part of this all seriously. And then you tell me that Terwilliger now is he is very confident that the 4-star tight end that he originally had predicted for Nebraska is going to end up being a Penn State Nittany Lion. They're still in a really good spot for 2027. They still have some top commits. They're still trending in the right direction for a lot of really top guys. But if we're ranking our most optimistic and pessimistic Tim Verghese interviews that we've had on this show, that definitely reaches the pessimistic side more so than the optimistic side, especially what we've heard in the past. But still, Nebraska's still in a very, very good position to have a solid recruiting class. They just got to hold on to some of these guys and make some late surges, like other teams are making late surges for prospects that they were interested in. Let's talk about something that we have been working with for the last couple of weeks here. It's something, it was our brainchild, a little thing that we came up with to get you involved when it comes to the big golf tournament that's coming up starting Thursday. We are going to make our announcement for McMaster's matchup. Who is going to have a chance to take home $250 cold hard cash? We tell you next here on 1620 The Zone Radio Network. If you've been listening to Middays with Matt for the last couple of weeks, you know we've been pushing McMaster's matchup. There is a big tournament that's happening in Augusta, Georgia, starting on Thursday, working to Sunday. It is considered to be the Super Bowl, if you will, of golf that is happening Thursday to Sunday. And the last couple of weeks, we've given you an opportunity to enter in to potentially win $250 cash. All you had to do was go to 1620thezone.com, register for McMaster's matchup. We were going to put you in a little pot, right? Then we were going to pick your name out of the hat. If you got picked, then we were going to assign you to a golfer, one of the top 20 golfers in the world. We went off the World Golf Association rankings, the top 20 golfers in the world. We assigned you with a golfer, and if your golfer ended up winning the big tournament in Augusta, Georgia, you were going to walk away with $250 cash. Registration was up on Sunday. We now have the names. We've already gone ahead and contacted as well the people who have been selected. We'll go through the pool. We want to give a big clap. Tanner.
Well, a golf clap, which is smaller than a regular clap.
These aren't zone contestants. These are zone patrons, if you will. Zone patrons.
I see what you did there.
Yes. Don't call it the rough. Don't you dare call it the rough. You dummy. Tanner got Scotty Scheffler. Matt, what a great name, was assigned Rory McIlroy. Jared got Cam Young. Brian got Tommy Fleetwood. John, who is a often emailer, texter. He loves me. I'm his favorite host on the zone.
Put that cell phone away.
John got JJ Spawn. Had it coming. Lene got Matt Fitzpatrick. Congratulations to Lene. Brian got Colin Morikawa. John got Robert McIntyre, who definitely will be hitting out of the second cut a lot in this Masters tournament. Jason got Justin Rose. Nathan got Xander Schauffele. Todd is hoping Chris got her up, gets her down off the chips and the fairways and everything like that. Robert got Russell Henry. No, it's Russell Henley. Joey got Sepp Straka.
That's a typo on my part.
Chad is looking for Hideki Matsuyama to get his.
I typed that one right.
Well, I don't think he needed to type it right. I know it by heart. No, I love Hideki Matsuyama. Greatest Masters dinner of all time. Hideki Matsuyama.
That's what they say.
Trying to get a second green jacket. Kevin got Justin Thomas. Steven got Ben Griffin. Molly got my pick. This is my pick.
Whoa.
Molly got my pick for the Masters. She got Ludwig Oberg. That's who I'm picking. Ludwig has been playing great golf recently.
Okay.
He plays well at Augusta. Molly, to me, she's in the driver's seat. Declan, our friend who always tweets, he got Jacob Bridgman. Sorry. Declan got the short end of the straw.
Oh, no.
Bridgman's 86-1. Sorry, Declan. But Hunter got an even worse one. He got Alex Noren.
Oh, no.
And we want to give a shout out to Chad. Because Chad.
This is Chad M.
Chad M. probably got the best pick. He got the field. Chad M. Because you got to remember, in these golf rankings, they don't include who? The live golfers.
The livers.
The livers. They don't include the livers. So Chad got Bryson DeChambeau.
Oh.
Chad also got.
Okay.
He also
That's
got
right.
John Rahm, who's not in here. And he also got a guy who I think is going to have a pretty good Masters tournament, Min Woo Lee. Not a top 20 golfer, but pretty high up in the odds. So congratulations to Chad M. We got Rahm and DeChambeau because they're not in the world golf rankings. So he's in the driver's seat next to Molly. Scotty Scheffler hasn't played that great of golf. Just putting it out there before we hit to the Masters tournament. Coming up next, we'll give you some more updates on college basketball transfer portal news, along with some other news in basketball across the country. And Peter Schrager released his draft, one of the most accurate drafts in all the sports media.
Right.
We talk about it coming up next on MWM. We go to the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. 402-951-1620 is the number to call or text if you have any thoughts on Nebraska basketball's transfer portal, potential acquisitions. Currently, no acquisitions have taken place so far for Nebraska. There was an acquisition that was made earlier today. Jerry McNamara took one of his point guards from Siena over to Syracuse. We'll see if more of that movement happens for mid-major coaches who ended up getting some high-major jobs. We go to the Prairie Flowers Casino Zone text line. John, who is in our McMasters matchup, goes, I got JJ Spawn. Tell me this was not a random draw without telling me it was not a random draw. God, John, you are not a ball knower in any way, shape, or form, John, because if John was a ball knower, he would know that JJ Spawn just won the Valero Texas Open. He shot 17 under. The guy's hot going into the Masters. He beat out Robert McIntyre, a guy who was in McMaster's matchup. He beat out Ludwig Oberg, a guy who was in McMaster's matchup. So, hey, John, we gave you a fine golfer. We gave you a great golfer. We gave you a guy who won a major last year. Only 4 men can say they won majors last year. How about that? I don't want to hear any of this complaining. All right. We treat McMaster's matchup like we treat a kindergarten classroom. You get what you get and you don't get upset. Okay. Don't be upset. That's what I say. Somebody who is upset is Terrace Reed Jr. Here's a crazy stat. Terrace Reed Jr. has played 2 years at Michigan. He then transferred, played 2 years at UConn. In his 4 years of college basketball, UConn and Michigan had won 3 of the 4 national championships that could have occurred. He won none of them.
Oh, no.
He was on the 2 teams that won 3 of the 4. And he did not walk away with a ring. He did walk away, though, being one of the more impressive players at the tournament. It just turned out that Ade Mara and Marez Johnson were wildly impressive yesterday. It was a great head coaching duel between 2 of the best head coaches in the country. Dan Hurley, I think this is his best coaching job that he's had. I think, seriously, I think making this national championship, I think beating the teams that he had to beat to get here and doing it with a roster that wasn't nearly as good as the ones with Sonogo or Klingon or Noonan or Stephon Castle. This, don't get me wrong, still a really good roster, right? Like, Braylon Mullins is a stud, and Alex Caravan is Alex Caravan, and Silas Demery, who was playing, was hurt during this tournament, and Terrace Reed Jr., all fine players, but this is, they obviously were not the same roster that they were in the past years when they had won 2 national championships in a row, but they had beaten some really, really impressive teams on the way here. People forget, man, too, like, UCLA was playing some really good basketball. There was an argument that UCLA was playing some of their best basketball of the season heading into March, and they handled them fairly easily. And then they go ahead and you beat Duke the way that you beat them. That was the one thing. It was just, it was kind of akin a little bit yesterday to the UConn Duke game where Duke, had the lead and they were in control of the game, but UConn just kept chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. They got themselves in the game, and then they stayed in the game for what seemed to be an eternity. It was 8-9 minutes where they were just kind of teetering back and forth between being down 6 and 10 and chipping away, and then they got it at the last second. And yesterday, UConn was just kind of hanging around against Michigan, a team that is just so well built from a size perspective, from a shooting perspective, from a ball handling perspective. And they had a good game plan, man. They played physical, tried to clear the rebounds as best as possible. They took a lot of threes. They didn't make a ton of them. They tried to fight fire with fire. It's just at the end of the day that front court was just overbearing for Dan Hurley. But, this is a team that nearly lost in overtime to Providence, nearly lost in overtime to Villanova, a team that had lost to Creighton. Before we got to the NCAA tournament, UConn got bullied by St. John's in the Big East Conference tournament. And they had, frankly, gotten bullied by St. John's twice this season. And, Mike Schaefer was talking about in the morning show how, he would have just been objectively wrong if UConn ended up winning the national championship because he didn't buy what they were selling. And he probably would have been the most wrong he's been in quite a while. Mike, if you're listening, I would have been right there too. I took a whole other step and said, I thought that St. John's had a better chance at making a deep run as a 5 seed than UConn did as a 2 seed. Maybe I shouldn't bring up my bad takes up on the air, but I think it's just a credit to say, as somebody who, because of Blue Jay overtime and because of my role with Creighton men's broadcasting Creighton men's basketball for the radio station, I watched a lot of UConn. I watched a lot of Big East basketball, and they were always good. They had a ton of talent. I'm not saying they were a bunch of bums, but they just weren't the UConn of old. And yet Dan Hurley beat some high quality ass teams, man. Duke's a monster, man. Sarr, the Boozer brothers, like they John Shire, I think, is a very good coach. Like, that was a great team that had pretty handily had beaten Michigan earlier in the year when they did that kind of random February non-con game. I think that game was in DC, and Duke handled business against Michigan and beat them. And you're like, whoa, this is the best team in the country. They beat that team. They beat an Illinois team that really bucked up during the NCAA tournament and really clamped down on defense. And, Andre Stojakovic was playing like the player they thought he would have been all season when they acquired him from Cal last year. And Keaton Wagler was Keaton Wagler. And that front court of Mirkovic and Ivasic, both Vladimir and Tomislav, along with Humerkaus, the size that they have with Jake Davis coming off the bench, you're like, whoa, this is the type of Illinois team that, they're going to be able to pass out of these double teams pretty handily from UConn and their aggressive defense. And it wasn't the case. I mean, they heated up the ball against Illinois. Illinois did not have, their best stuff. They shot 23% from the 3-point line, but it almost seemed like Hurley had his guys comfortable to be in one-on-one situations and took a ton of pride in defense. And then, what they were doing with Caravan and Terrace Reed Jr. in the posts and cutting to the basket, really the last 2 games. I mean, obviously the story is Dusky May. The story is him, in his second year leading Michigan to a national championship after leading them to leading them to the Sweet 16 in a Big Ten tournament win last year. I mean, obviously that is the story, but Dan Hurley and what he did this season for this iteration of UConn goes to prove that. I mean, undoubtedly you could say what you want about all the talent that he was able to acquire over the last couple of seasons, but he still is best coach of college basketball. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think there's any question in my mind who the top guy is. Right next to him, though, is Dusky May. A lot of really great articles coming out about Dusky May and just the preparation and time and how meticulous he is. And, I think a lot of people are going to a lot of people are going to say, well, he got all his starters out of the transfer portal and this is the new era and college sports sucks and he bought his team and this and that and whatever. Well, first of all, let's get some facts right. Namari Burnett and Roddy Gale Jr. came out of the transfer portal, but this isn't their first year with Michigan. They had been with the program. At that point, you are of that team. To me, when you have your second year with the team, you're no longer a transfer portal guy. You are of that team. You are a Michigan player, right? So to say, his starters, well, Burnett and Gale have been there for a while. He's of Michigan. And then also, too, the criticism of, he bought the team. Yeah, Elliot Cadeau was pretty expensive. Guy played a lot of games for North Carolina. Yaxel Lendenborg seemed like he was for sure going to go to the NBA. I'm sure he was pretty expensive. Morez Johnson had played a ton of minutes, played 25 minutes a game for Illinois last season. I'm sure he was pretty expensive. But just because you spend a lot of money does not mean you're going to win. Ask Kansas. Ask Kentucky. Ask North Carolina. Right? I mean, ask all these teams who spent exuberant amount of cash and ended up not having nearly as much success as they thought they would. It's not about just spending money, it's spending the right money. What does Herb Brooks say to Jim Craig? I'm not looking for the best players, Jim. I'm looking for the right ones. That's what Dusky May did. He got the right players. He took a shot on Adai Mara, who had played 13 minutes a game and started 1 game last season for UCLA. UCLA had Amara in the building, and they let him go. Mick Cronin buried his ass. He's like, I don't want this guy anymore. And Michigan took him, and, they found a recipe for success. And, what they were doing with Wolf and Golden last year at times was innovation at its best. And, it's funny what they did with Golden and Wolf and the P&R that they would have with them, and it'd be all sexy, and everybody was freaking out about it. Yeah, that's great, but This year, they just did it with brute force, man. They did it with Johnson. They did it with Mara, and then they acquired the Axel Lindenborg. We're talking about a gutsy performance, especially in that second half. This guy is obviously nursing this injury, obviously, going through a lot of pain and at times didn't really look like himself in the first half, and has a phenomenal half two, makes some buckets down the stretch when they needed it. It's a great team. It's one of the best. According to Ken Palm, it's one of the best teams of all time. So Michigan, 19-1 in the Big Ten in the regular season. Go ahead. They lose in the championship game of the Big Ten tournament, and then they honestly turned on the faucet, man, and played. I mean, we talk about Dan Hurley and crushing your way through the NCAA tournament, right? Like those UConn teams, they didn't just win those games in the NCAA tournament. They dominated their way through the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years. It was unheard of. Man, Michigan basketball this season wasn't that far off either. I mean, what they did is very akin to what UConn had did the last couple of years, right? They go ahead, their first game, they play Howard, they win by 21. Their second game, they play St. Louis, they win by 23. Their third game, they play Alabama. They were in control of that game from the get-go, but they win by 13. They play Tennessee, they win by 33 points. Won by 33 points against a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament in the Elite Eight. They play Arizona. Fun fact, according to Ken Palm, Michigan was the number 2 team according to the ratings of all time on Ken Palm. What? Arizona was 4th. Oh. 2 of the top 5 teams of all time in Ken Palm in their ratings. They beat them by 18 points. They did a lot of that without one of their best players and the Axel Lindenborg. And then yesterday, yeah, they won by 6 points. They didn't necessarily have that blowout win, but they took care of business. And I thought it was it wasn't the most entertaining NCAA tournament national championship that we've had. There definitely were some sloppy things that happened. There definitely were moments where like, how is that not a foul? My God. I mean, he draped himself all over him. But Michigan pulls it out. I do have a complaint you're not going to like, Josh Hodson.
Oh, no.
What you got?
I got to attack it head on.
Okay.
Because this is how I feel. And you're not going to make me feel any other way.
Okay.
Do we have to play the national championship games in college on a Monday?
Michael Severe had the same rant yesterday.
On a Monday? Really? Not just one. We play the 2 biggest national championship games in college sports on Mondays. Why?
If the College World Series goes to a 3rd game, that's on a Monday.
Why do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we put it on like what a lot of? Let me go to Tyler here in the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. This time he texted in. Tyler, because we were talking about our least favorite days of the week. Tyler said, "Awful take. Mondays blow so bad." People don't like Mondays, and yet you're putting your biggest games on that day. That it's not a weekend. It's not a ratings day, right? It's not a day where it draws a ton. Mondays at 7:50 when they tipped off yesterday, by the way, isn't necessarily the prime time slot for really anything. I mean, Monday Night Football, but the draw isn't Monday at night. The draw is the football. It just makes no sense to me. Makes 0 sense to me why they do it on a Monday. And not just one, but 2 national championships.
I was ripping people for complaining about the start time, but that is a bad start time.
Yeah.
You got to move. Can you meet
7.
us halfway? 7:30?
Not even. Just put it at. What is going on? That's my question. What is going on at 7 that you have to avoid? That you're not trying to compete against? If anything, I would say you could have that at 6:30.
Oh.
You get home from work, you sit down, you take a shower, get out of your work clothes, take a seat, and then all of a sudden you just turn on, hey, the pregame's on. Beautiful. 45 minutes of pregame.
Oh, wow. Look at those 12 men at a desk.
Yeah.
All talking at the same time.
Okay, yeah. Can we do something better? Can we have I wanted a little bit more pregame. I wanted a little bit more build-up. I wanted a little bit, more promos and whatnot.
You wanted more promos?
I like promos. I'm a big promo guy.
Stay tuned after the game. It's Impractical Jokers starring Anthony
No,
Davis.
not that. I'm Leslie Stahl.
Oh,
He's been entertaining audiences worldwide. But in his free time,
tune in for the 15th anniversary of Game of Thrones. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. It's just the same episodes of Game of Thrones you've already watched.
what you see on the stage is not like what Taylor Swift is at home. I'm Leslie Stahl. I like 60 minutes.
I love that you have no idea of any cultural references from the 80s or 90s or 2000s, but that's the one that you know and can execute very well.
I'm Leslie Stahl. Next on 60 Minutes.
Is that an NFL thing? Like,
yeah, that's just what I grew up
60 Minutes just kind of bleeds into the NFL.
Literally.
Yeah.
Do you know all of the power plants are in South Dakota? We visited one of them. This is how it was. PC goes, is Lendenborg low-key the least likable college hooper this year? I interviewed him. Well, let me restate this. I was one of the 37 reporters surrounding him at the Big Ten tournament in the locker room.
Exclusive coverage.
After they won the semifinal game to go to the finals. I actually asked him the first question he was asked.
Wow. Leading the charge, Matt McMaster.
I know, that's what I do. I was a little nervous.
Local and exclusive.
I was like, this guy's the Big Ten Player of the Year, and I'm this scrawny little Lincoln, Nebraska, or Omaha, Nebraska reporter right here. And I asked him a question. All the people are like, who the hell is that guy? Why is he asking him the question? But I asked him the question. He could have been nicer. He was just a nice guy. He was just like,
gentle giant.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm just so happy to be here. I love this team. We like to win. We had to be honest with each other. Praise the Lord. I'm like, sounds good, man. Hallelujah. Right? I mean, that's just all he gave. I don't think he was unlikable in any capacity. I don't know. Maybe it's, I mean, you'll wish he played for anybody other than Michigan. That's the one thing I won't get over. You're never going to make me like Michigan. I don't think there is any player that could ever make me like Michigan.
Oh.
Trey Burke, Jordan Poole, don't matter. I will never be like, you know what? I like that guy. Go Blue.
Trying to think. Brian Urlacher.
No. He's already kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I grew up with him.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no way that you can make me. Maybe Colston Loveland. But I like Colston Loveland for the Bears. I'm for Colston. He's not going to make me like Michigan. There's nobody that you can say that will make me
you wouldn't,
like Michigan.
There's no pro athlete that you've been like, yeah.
You know what?
I watched him in college, and then he came to my favorite team.
I'll tell you this right now. I'll give you one.
Okay.
Retroactively. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was a Michigan Wolverine. That might have been able to
That might have been the one.
That might have been able to do it. By the way, the Chicago Bulls fired their entire front office yesterday. Praise the Lord.
Well, they could have fired more people.
Explain to me why Billy Donovan still has a job. Could somebody explain that to me?
They love his moxie.
They want to keep him long term. I go, for what? Because he tells funny jokes? Because he's a nice guy? This guy is the longest tenured personality hire in all of college, in all of sports.
I even wrote in my journal, good joke. Good joke, Billy.
Seriously. This is ridiculous. Jim Boylan was so bad at being a head coach that he's allowed Billy Donovan to be 20 games under 500 and still have a job in 6 seasons. He's been the head coach for 6 seasons, the Chicago Bulls. When they fired Eversley and Karnisovas yesterday, they said, oh, their record of 224 and 240, whatever. Do you know who's got the same record during that time? Billy Donovan. And yet they want to keep him there long term. Andrew goes, Rose played for Memphis. I'm aware, Andrew. I'm saying if he played for Michigan, I would have liked Michigan.
That's how much he liked Derrick Rose.
I would love to have a Derrick Rose Simeon jersey. That would be sick. That would be a sick jersey to have. But no, Billy Donovan's still going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. And the Chicago Sky traded Angel Reese for God knows what reason. Not that I'm like mad or upset about it, or I'm some sky honk, but what a useless franchise. They have no idea what they're doing. Do you know how many people are now going to watch the Chicago Sky that they now traded Angel Reese?
None.
None. Can you name me one other player on the Chicago Sky?
You say that, so I'm going to assume Candace Parker no longer plays for them.
She's been retired for years.
I don't know.
She's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. That means she's been out of action for like 5 seasons.
Who knows with that Hall of Fame?
It's just the basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah. No, I can't tell you anything.
There was
I'm sorry.
Camila Cardoza is the answer we're looking for. Also, if you wanted to go with Courtney Vandersloot, you could have said that as well.
I know that name.
Yeah. CVS. He's a very good basketball player.
Not a great name in that town.
Why? In Chicago?
Yeah. It's a Walgreens town. It's a Jewel Osco town.
I can't stand CVS.
See?
I can't. I'm in a beef right now with CVS. Dude, do you think this psoriasis is just on my body because I want it to be? You think I'm having a great time with CVS right now?
No, I would think the exact opposite, actually.
It's ridiculous. It is a Walgreens town. Good on you for knowing that.
I know that.
My mom isn't into sports, and she's like, "Why are the Cubs playing the Washington Walgreens?" That was always her go-to joke. I was like, "It's not funny anymore."
Good joke, Mom. Come on the show
It
tomorrow.
is the same W. Can we have that conversation?
I mean, I want to look at them right next to each other.
They are the same letter.
Surely somebody has put
They
these-
are the same exact letter. There is no difference.
Yeah, there's some like texture difference to them, but that's really it. Wow.
Yeah, they're the same letter. They're the same
mean,
W.
Nobody sued anyone on this.
So April goes close, but not quite the same.
I mean,
obviously, because then there would be some legalities.
That's like the Creighton Blue Jay and the Toronto Blue Jay being different.
Can we just be real here? You're an MLB franchise. You can be different. You can be creative. You don't have to be associated with a pharmacy company because of your logo.
Maybe that was the play. Maybe they were like, "Hey, people love this Walgreens place. We need them to love this baseball franchise."
Do you know what's not a draw? Do you know what's not a draw? Max Scherzer and Bryce Harper. Do you know what is going to get people into this stadium? Which, by the way, is a great field. It's an awesome field. Do you know what is going to get people to the field? Thinking they're going to a pharmacy.
I came here for my pills, and Juan Soto was on the field.
I love Patrick Corbin, but I need to get my Ozempic. I'm here to pick up my GLP-1s. What do you mean Madison Bumgarner's throwing a Harper right now? What do you mean?
You know, all these baseball stadiums have sports books inside them now. Maybe National Park has a Walgreens.
Maybe we need to put a Walgreens in National Park. Put that on the list of great ideas that we've had. Today we've had Walgreens at Nationals Park and fireproof barn stables.
That's right.
That NBC would be pissed if we actually sold to description.
Just making life better for
They'd
everyone.
have no content.
Tarico would come over and break my legs.
You know, I tried getting Eddie Olczyk on the show last year.
And he laughed at you?
And I got his number. And somebody goes, "I didn't give it to you." It's like real mob. Like, I didn't. Hey, don't tell Edzo I gave it to you. I would love to get. Can you imagine?
Did he hit you with a lose this number?
Do you know what he hit me with? Nothing at all.
Mm.
We should get a horse guy on the show. I think that would be. We should get a horse guy on the show, and you should ask him questions.
Okay.
What if we reverse the roles? It was a wacky guest Tuesday for you.
I would participate.
What if we did the counter programming to Wacky Guest Wednesday, where I booked a interview for you? I feel like that would just be a way for me to get a segment off.
That's some people are doing that now.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Or 2 segments off. I'm not.
Every one of our segments is live.
In living color. By the way, Bubba Walsh just revealed his new car for the NASCAR race upcoming.
All right. I got a question as to why one brought up the other, but we don't have to go
live
there.
in living color. Living color, the artist for CM Punk's
Okay.
show.
That would
CM
be
Punk.
color with an OU.
Yeah, still.
Okay.
I mean, that's the same word. I mean,
Sure.
You think I'm getting technical with vernacular?
No.
Take a deep breath and think about that for a
I'm
second.
just glad you didn't reference the Fox comedy show in Living Color, and then
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I've never heard of that. Anyway, live. What?
just
The camera's not on you anymore. You've had the
I
studio
know.
camera on
I
the
know.
entire
I've
time.
been moving around today.
You can't help the camera and be at the wrong camera.
That's just for you, buddy.
I know. Thank you. Well, I barely could see you through all these wires.
That was Michael
computers.
Severe's big complaint yesterday.
Michael Severe had a lot of big complaints yesterday.
That was a segment we did.
Mike Malone got hired to be the North Carolina head coach, and Severe was still complaining. He never got off of it. Anyway, what I was saying is that his car and his upcoming race is all WrestleMania themed out. So
There's a WrestleMania car.
there's a WrestleMania car, and
That makes sense.
I've never been less excited
Oh no.
for a WrestleMania in my life. But we were able to see Pat McAfee today on
the
the
TV?
Sports Center. Yeah,
Oh, not right now.
No, I don't know who that is. Oh, that's Lindsey Vaughn.
Yeah. Why is she on the TV?
I think she's talking about her knee or something.
I was just happy he was okay and got the call in to the president.
I got to go on Twitter. The last couple of days on Twitter have been incredible. And this show has been incredible too. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up here. Coming up on the 1620 The Zone Radio Network. All right, officially official. The Board of Trustees of North Carolina have approved of Michael Malone being named the next head coach of the Tar Heels. 510 games as an NBA coach is how many Michael Malone has won, an NBA champion. Did it, by the way, going through the West of all conferences. So Malone officially the head coach of the University of North Carolina. James Najee is entering the transfer portal. For those who are wondering, why do I care, Matt? Why do I care that James Najee is entering the transfer portal? Well, he's the one who started all this hubbubaloo that is draft picks and professional players entering the transfer portal and going to college. Najee was the first ever former NBA draft pick to play college hoops. Granted, he never signed a contract to play in the NBA, which is why he was eventually granted re-eligibility. That was kind of the difference between him and Mr. Charles Bediako, who was not granted eligibility. So he is in the transfer portal now. By the way, everybody freaked out about Najee going to Baylor and whatnot. Scott Drew breaking the rules. We were all flipping our crap about it. He played 18 games and he averaged 1.4 points and 2.1 rebounds. So it's not as if he had this massive impact coming back and playing college basketball. So those are the things in college basketball to keep an eye on. We got some more transfer portal activity happening left, right, and center. Donnie Freeman, who averaged 16.5 points for Syracuse last season, he will not be rejoining the Orange with Jerry McNamara and entering the transfer portal as well. Portal is open for both Nebraska and Creighton. Quinn Rhymes, the redshirt freshman, he will enter the transfer portal and not be with the Huskers next season. And Owen Freeman, the Creighton men's basketball team's big acquisition from last year, will not be rejoining the team after a disappointing first stint with the Creighton Blue Jays. We have a man who only releases 2 NFL mock drafts a year. I will say this much. I love it. I love Peter Schrager. I think Peter Schrager is one of those guys that, like, universally fans and media just all really like and respect him and think he's just a very high quality broadcaster. There are some broadcasters that get a ton of hate from fans that us broadcasters in the media go, well, he's pretty good. I like him. I actually think that he does a pretty good job. And then there are some broadcasters that, for whatever reason, are wildly popular that everybody loves and they tune into and they watch them and they have these massive ratings. And some people are like, really? That guy? Peter Schrager falls in that camp perfectly of just, no, people like him because of the things that he does. And I think broadcast media watch him and they go, yeah, that guy's really good at his job. Some interesting tidbits here. Now, if you want some merit last year based on Peter Schrager's mock draft, he mocked the Giants to pick Abdul Carter with their first round pick. And then he was the only one who mocked the Giants to trade in at the exact pick that they traded in at and draft Jackson Dart. So when Peter Schrager talks, people definitely listen, and he's most definitely tuned in to what people, what teams are thinking about when it comes to the NFL draft. Here are a couple ones that pique my interest a little bit. Number one, the Miami Dolphins getting Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate, I think he didn't get as much shine on Ohio State's roster because he was next to Jeremiah Smith, and there was this idea that, lining up next to Jeremiah Smith, you're not getting, you're going to get softer coverage and you're going to get the number 2 cornerback and you're not facing as good as competition. I think there were times last year, not only with Julian Sand, but the year before with Will Howard, where Carnell Tate was their best pass catcher. Like, I think that there were just games straight up that he was just a better player than Jeremiah Smith. And we all forget about Jeremiah Smith, but you got to remember that Carnell Tate played in Chicago for Marist High School. Then he transferred, played for IMG Academy, was a stud in both those places, goes to OSU. And he had some games, man, where it's like, oh no, this guy is leading the charge. Fast, can line up just about anywhere on the field. Speed, sir. I mean, he just kind of has this guy has everything. And he's a guy that a lot of people have mocked to go all the way as high as number 6 to the Cleveland Browns. So I've always been a big Cardell Tate fan. I think it'd be a steal at 11 for Ohio or for the Miami Dolphins. Let's also talk about what I think would be a steal at 12. Caleb Downs to the Dallas Cowboys. My God, that would be, and this wouldn't be the first time that the Cowboys sitting in this area of the draft go ahead and draft a high quality impact defensive players. People forget, like, we talk about Micah Parsons, we talk about the high impact that he had, and Verghese has been compared over and over and over again to Micah Parsons. Oh, you want to draft a Micah Parsons type player. Micah Parsons was picked 11th for the Dallas Cowboys. He fell outside of the top 10. If Dallas were to do this again, where they're just sitting at 12 and they kind of let the pieces fall where they may, where, okay, Kansas City has a need at wide receiver. They take Jordan Tyson. The Bengals have a need at quarterback. They take Delaney. All right, the Dolphins, they need a wide receiver. They go ahead and take Carnell Tate. You go all the way up to 5. Hey, the Giants with Jim Harbaugh, or John Harbaugh, rather, they're going to take an offensive lineman. Cleveland, they got to play it smart. They got to protect their quarterback, whoever it might be in the future. They're going to take an O-lineman. All right, Sonny Styles and Reuben Bain Jr. are just sitting there for New Orleans and Washington. They're going to take them. And all of a sudden, the Dallas Cowboys get what could be the 3rd or 4th best player in this entire draft at 12. I mean, that would be one hell of a pick from Jera and his son. So, I mean, that sticks out to me immediately. And then the amount of just offensive linemen. You know, Ione from Penn State, Fanu, Monroe Freeling from Georgia. You got Caden Proctor going to the Bears, which I don't love. I prefer them to take a defensive lineman. Lomu from Utah, another guy going to the San Francisco 49ers. Max Ionachar, he's an offensive tackle from Arizona State. He was like a mid-second to third round guy before the combine, has ended up flying up the boards for the first round. And then Keelan Rutledge, he's a guard, might play center in the NFL from Georgia Tech. He was coached by Jeep Wade. So, you know, looking at Schrager's mock draft, it's kind of confirming some of the things that we know. O-line, 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 O-line. If you need a big boy in the trenches, because especially the fall off from the quality of round 1 to about round 3, you got to get him early, okay? This isn't as boring as that one. What was that? Oh, God, I forget his name. He was drafted first overall, but it was that one draft where it's like they was so bad that everyone was just taking offensive linemen. It's not to that extent, but big boys are getting paid. Let's just say that. And I think that's definitely a reflection of some of the teams that had some success in the playoffs last season, really doing it from the trenches, trend that we've seen for the eternity of football in general, but especially recently. All right, coming up next, we close out the show. We give you a dog of the day and what to watch tonight from me and Josh Otson here on Middays with Matt on the 1620 The Zone Radio Network. What are we watching tonight, Josh Odson?
I like that. That's a good
Thank
little
you.
sing along.
Thank you.
NBA on NBC tonight. Hornets, Celtics.
Barf.
7 o'clock.
Ugh.
Peacock, 10 o'clock. Rockets, Suns.
Ugh.
Johnny Fanta on the call for that late night
Oh,
game.
maybe I'll watch Johnny Fanta.
And then TBS, they had the national championship game last night. They follow it up with a World Series rematch tonight. Dodgers, Blue Jays at 6 o'clock. Couple of college games to watch tonight. ESPN2 has Florida versus Florida State at 6 o'clock. And number 19, Nebraska against Kansas, 6 o'clock on Big Ten Plus. ESPN NHL doubleheader tonight. Flyers Devils at 6, followed by Oilers Mammoth at 8:30.
Thank you, Josh Odson. Which, by the way, don't forget the championship here. It's the Omaha Food Fight presented by Union Bank and Trust. It all comes down to this. It's the final two, the countdown. The Drover versus Dinker's Bar and Grill. Don't forget to go to 1620thezone.com and vote on that. And also, too, we have you covered if you want to go and see the Omaha Supernovas in local news today. They let go of head coach Luca Slabe, replacing him with interim head coach, and he was on the staff already, Thomas Robson. You can watch the newly led Omaha Supernova Sunday, April 12th at 4 p.m. at the CHI Health Center in Omaha, taking on the Dallas Pulse. It's a Tank Tuesday here on Dog of the Day. All right, the intro is incorrect.
Oh, do we not love dogs? Are we
No.
a cat show now?
We are not a cat show.
Okay.
I'm not on a roll at all.
Oh,
I'm on the opposite of a roll. What's the opposite of a heater? A cooler? I'm on a cooler.
Everybody,
But
the cooler's here.
do you know who's on a heater? Brent Rooker. He hit 2 home runs in his last outing against the Houston Astros, his first 2 home runs of the season. I bet Brent keeps it going today. Plus 456 on a Tank Tuesday against the New York Yankees. Brent Rooker, plus 456 to hit a home run tonight. If you want to hit a home run, by the way, don't forget to continue to listen to us this week. And we will be giving away Zach Bryan tickets with Heaven on Tour, April 25th at Memorial Stadium. Be a home run. If you're able to score a pair of tickets, take your man, take your lady, take whomever you want. Make sure we'll be giving out tickets this week on Middays with Matt. Tune in for a chance to win your way to Zach Bryan. Thank you so much for listening to us today on MWN here on the 1620 Zone Radio Network. USC and the crossover coming up next.